or air conditioning in the summer.
Okay.
Call to order at 6:32 p.m. First item of business, joint meeting with the school committee for an elected official appointment. I'll call that to order also at 6:32. If you don't mind, just join us at the table just for the quick review and the all members of the committee.
Yep.
Yeah, we can pull up a couple more chairs if needed.
There's two up there, just need one more.
Or someone can take a seat in the middle too if you'd rather. Scott, could I ask you to
Yep,
carry that one? My packet's not opening yet.
you got it.
Thank you.
So there has been a letter of interest from Mackenzie Bailey to fill that position. I had the pleasure of serving on the school committee for several years with Mackenzie. I think she'll be a great fit for that role again. She had quite a few years last time. So I have no reason for any other concerns. So just make a motion and we can discuss then if there is any. So let's see, school committee. Make a motion to appoint Mackenzie Bailey as a member of the school committee through June 30th, 2023.
Second.
We need a roll call for that, all of them.
Okay. Thank you for the reminder.
Just a reminder. So,
Any discussion, any concerns?
I have no concerns.
None? Okay. All those in favor, it's a roll call. Please signify your vote by saying aye or nay when I call your name. Bill Bembry.
Aye, William Benberg.
Scott Bastrash.
Aye.
Jennifer Eichhorn.
Aye.
Eric.
Aye.
Sen.
Here's the test.
I don't have it in front of me yet.
I'm not giving it to you.
You're not giving it to me? Thank you.
Caitlin Malow.
Caitlin Maley. Thank you. And Jacob Smith, aye. All right. So that passes unanimously.
Easy peasy.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we'll deal with that tomorrow morning, and as soon as she can be sworn in, she'll
Okay.
be an official member of your board.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Thank you all.
Excellent.
Appreciate it.
And I'll move that we adjourn the joint meeting with the school committee and open the joint meeting with the recreation commission.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Nice. Come on up. Do you want to go? Want me to start it with a motion? You're still.
If you want to, yes.
Yeah, I have them all
looking at
here just in
so
case.
I do have it finally available.
All right, so we are doing rec commission. And this was Katie Sadler, but I'll make it as Kathleen because that's her official name. Make a motion to appoint Kathleen Sadler as a member of the Recreation Commission through June 30th, 2023.
Second.
Any questions or concerns?
No. Again, thankful that we have people saying they want to volunteer.
Do we have enough to have a majority of the remaining members? We do, right?
You only have one more remaining member, so
Right, at this point, just
Yes.
for the record,
you are the majority of the rec
This is
committee
the
as it stands
majority
now.
of the two committees, and board and committee, so.
And we've also advertised the other two vacancies for a period through October, so we're actively looking to recruit for the
Yep.
other two.
Have we had any responses yet?
I've already had one. So
Excellent.
looks like we'll be doing this again in a few weeks.
Excellent.
That's good news. All right, no other discussion. A roll call vote again. When I call your name, please say aye if you're in favor, nay if not. William Bembry,
Aye.
Scott Bastrash,
Aye.
Eric Eichhorn,
Aye.
Jacob Smith, aye. Passes unanimously.
Excellent. You can now
Here
actually
as well.
do business. You can actually do real business again.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
As soon as she gets sworn in, we'll be good.
Do you want me to contact her or?
She'll hear from Betsy tomorrow, but if
Okay.
you want to reach out in the meantime, absolutely.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And move that we adjourn the joint meeting with Recreation Commission and begin the joint meeting with the Board of Assessors.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Welcome.
Thank you. Always make me feel welcome.
You're on a roll. Well, good. I'm not doing great at that tonight, but I'm trying. Scott, it's if you want to.
Sure, I got them here. Yeah, we'll get all three of them done. This is for the Board of Assessors vacancy, and again, Mr. Eric Eichhorn. So I make a motion to appoint Eric Eichhorn as a member of the Board of Assessors through June 30th, 2023.
Second.
Any discussion? Any concerns?
I'd just like to mention that the other assessor, Mark, could not be here tonight.
Yes.
But we had reviewed the letter of application, and we're in favor of that.
Excellent.
Excellent. All
I
right.
say that because I'm not a fan of just one person from a board coming here, and with the other one just couldn't make it.
Yep.
Understood. So it's a roll call vote again. When I call your name, signify by saying aye or nay. William Bembry,
Aye.
Scott Bastrash,
Aye.
Dan Ham,
Aye.
Jacob Smith, aye. Passes unanimously. Welcome as soon as you get sworn in.
Thank you.
Again,
Yes, we'll notify you. Betsy will call you tomorrow.
unless you're waiting at the doorstep. And Excellent, excellent. Make a motion, we adjourn the joint meeting with the Board of Assessors and continue the Select Board meeting. at
Second.
6:38 PM.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for coming to get those out of the way. Let's see, discussion regarding town response to COVID-19.
I have no concerns.
Okay. So we didn't have an update. Oh, we did have an update. Okay.
It came later. Yeah. Just
I
got a
was just
little.
looking in the later list there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It hadn't come, so I was going to ask if we wanted to keep carrying it as a conversation point. Since it hadn't come, it just came last minute. But I'll ask it anyway. Do we want to carry the topic as a standing topic still at this point, or do we want to just visit it if there's concern?
I was going to say, I think if something comes up in the area, we can always put it back on. You may receive them, but I don't think it needs to be on there every meeting.
I would agree.
Okay. Yeah, obviously continue to get the updates forwarded, and if either of you have any concerns or we hear anything, we'll put it back on.
Sounds good.
Okay. Review of the COBRA policy, fourth read.
So this was the one that I had asked for clarification from council for the term gross misconduct, and met with council a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago maybe. He worked very diligently. There is actually no formal definition. You can't find it anywhere. So he took a compilation of many definitions used in various policies and legal briefs throughout the state and came up with what I feel was what I was looking for, just something that you can hang your hat on and say if it rises to this level, then we can put it in that category. But you can't define it with specific actions. It has to be more characteristics. So I'm satisfied.
It's a bit qualitative instead of being
Yeah, there's no, yeah.
quantitative.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is the presentation as a footnote?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think it works that
I think
way.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I don't need it, yeah, I didn't need it as a definition. A footnote is fine.
So you're satisfied?
I'm satisfied with it, yeah. That was the only piece. Everything else on the policy I thought looked good last time we read it. It was just that one piece.
Same here, so, all good?
All good.
Okay. No further discussion?
Would you like a motion?
I would.
Make a motion that we approve the Consolidated Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act policy, also known as COBRA, policy ADM-201,
Second.
Effective date.
today,
We're gonna effective date of today.
10/3/2022.
Excellent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Review of textile disposal options.
So I sent over summary of the responses we received over the last few months from a few entities that do this work. Just for a reminder of folks at home, the state has issued a waste ban update as of November 1st. Materials that fall into a textile category, shoes, clothing, rags, bedding, things of that nature can no longer be thrown away in trash unless they are moldy and wet. So everything else has to be diverted to another disposal opportunity, and towns are not required to provide that service, though towns are looking to cooperate and direct residents towards services. So we had put out a call back in middle of July, end of July, to several other vendors who do this work throughout the Commonwealth to see if they'd be interested in responding to Erving, to see if they wanted to offer a service. You all had a meeting, I want to say in August, where you discussed whether or not you were thinking of a bin option where people could come to a location and deposit items, if you were looking for something more like a special event, or if you were looking for something to be like a curbside collection at somebody's home. So all of these vendors that are on this list, plus the Salvation Army, who I can give you updates about, have responded that they can provide all three of those things. One company is leaning more towards just the bin because of the economy with fuel prices and collection and trying to be more efficient with their service. So, but all four have responded that they can work on any of these things if you're interested. Everybody except the Salvation Army is a for-profit corporation. But with that being said, many of them have a mission-oriented focus. So as part of their forming articles, their bylaws, they have had a mission orientation to them. So it's not just about the profit, but they are for-profit. Or they've partnered with a nonprofit or a foundation. So there is some revenue streams that are heading to charitable causes. 3 of these services are willing to offer a revenue contribution back to the town, if that's something that was interesting, but none of these are money makers, and I don't think you all were even looking for that. So it's just something just to note. So Salvation Army, I didn't have details on there. I got that this afternoon. They do offer all 3 of these services. They are not looking for a contract from a town. If the service works, it works. If it doesn't work and the town is interested in ceasing that partnership, notice is all they need and they can be on their way. They do offer curb collection. It sounds like they are in the Erving area weekly. So they can arrange pickups with people who call their dispatch center and request that service, or they can do the bins or the one-time events. They do not make contributions back to towns. Though if it was required, they could consider a nominal amount for rent for locating a bin in town if that was an option the town was interested in. With all of these corporations, and you saw that in some of the responses, I asked them if they had control over where their materials went. I know that was a concern that Jan had expressed to all of us. And so most of them talked about sorting them in the state, looking for the reusable materials that can be diverted out of the waste stream, and then if some are going to be turned into rags or something else, what that looks like. Salvation Army believes that they have like the highest level of reuse. Approximately 90 to 95% of the materials are sorted in Massachusetts, recirculated through their stores in Massachusetts, and it's a very small amount that ever gets exported out of the state, out of the country. So they really try to make a concerted effort to keep that material here. I don't know if, I know that was a high level update. I don't know if there are specific questions that you would want me to focus in on for another review. There are a few other vendors. There's about 10 total throughout the state, but some don't come out this way, or some only do bins. They don't do curbside collection. There's maybe one or two more that do the full services that I could reach out to, but I think you're going to get a similar flavor to what these are currently offering. They're all very similar.
So I would be in favor of the bin disposal system.
Okay.
And preferably somewhere at the highway department as opposed to street or pickup or home pickup. I would hate to see clothes strewn all across roadways and whatever, blowing wherever.
I mean, that's always a concern. Just to be clear, because I probably wasn't clear enough, the services, all of these services with a curbside collection,
Yep.
there would be a day that they're coming through Erving.
Yeah.
We would communicate that to the residents.
Right.
If residents wanted a pickup on that day,
Yeah,
they would call it into the dispatch office, so they would
Yeah.
know when I'm coming through Erving, I'm stopping at these houses.
yeah,
And so you'd put that curbside, just like we do trash on Fridays.
Yep, yep.
So there would be a given day. So you shouldn't see piles of clothing out by the curb for days. It should be that day.
you probably shouldn't. but
I hear
would
you.
guarantee
I hear you.
you probably will.
I hear you.
Have a lot of
And
faith.
I would want to
No.
avoid that like a plague.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know we had a lot of discussion last time about bins and what they bring, and I understand location matters, but only to a point.
Yeah.
I don't,
Yeah, they both have a drawback, and I'm not sure.
There's no
I have
perfect.
Yeah, there is no perfect, and I'm not. I like the idea of putting it in a location like the highway or police or fire, somewhere that they have to go to that can be monitored, that is not just on the side of the road. I think of the bins that I see in Turner's Falls up by Scotty's up on the hill, and they're typically just overflowing, and there's bags of, you can tell it's trash, and it's not just textiles, it's kitchen racks like that one with the microwave on it, and you name it, it's everything that they can't dispose of in their own trash that they stick there. So I'm a little leery of having those bins for that purpose, because if you have the home collection, the person shows up. If it's not something that's supposed to be picked up, it just gets left there, and we have to notify the homeowner, bring that back in, please. It's not getting picked up. It's not on the list. And I get the idea that I think I'm leaning towards the home pickup, just for that fact that you can monitor what's getting picked up before the fact instead of after, when it's already there, and then we have to deal with it now that it's there. It becomes ours or the companies, and there's going to be a little back and forth on how do we remedy that. So I would lean towards the home bins. It'll take some practice to get used to notifying, and the residents understanding that they need to call in order to get their house on the list on that specific day, not just every Tuesday, but when they're coming. But I would lean towards that. Could can I ask an opinion of a gentleman sitting in the audience?
absolutely.
I was gonna wait till the three of you got done and then give you my opinion.
You got to come up here if you want to answer though. Welcome, Superintendent McCrory.
Welcome all, you think for having me. So as it is right now, we have a free electronics drop-off down at the highway garage. You don't need to call ahead because it's a free free drop-off, not like a mattress, not like appliances. We find everything in there from blenders to toasters, electric guitars, everything, because people think because it's electrical, it can go in there. That's not what that recycling program is for. So then we get charged extra for anything above and beyond what that recycling program is meant for. Brush is a free drop-off. We find scrap lumber, plywood, pallets, rubbish under brush piles that people drop off. It's an unmonitored thing. It's a free drop-off all day long, all week long. So the thought of having one more unsupervised drop-off, appointment needed for it, I'm afraid we're gonna get a lot more stuff dropped off than just the clothing, bedding, and stuff that's gonna be in there.
Yeah, that was my
Our
concern.
free waste oil drop-off, we find buckets of antifreeze that are with it, paints, stains, gas, diesel, and it's on camera, so we can take the time, we go back, you can ask Chief Holes, we review the cameras, we get a license plate number, if it's possible, contact the people, come back, pick your stuff up, this is not what this service is for. So, all the free stuff that the town of Erving provides for residents to drop off have been highly taken advantage of and at a bigger cost to the town than probably what it was initially set out to be.
I think my thought was, the reason I was saying for the bins is we're not required, now there's a regulation that we just can't, there has to be some way for the resident to dispose of it. I think just putting the onus on the resident to say, we've located or contracted with a company that will come to your house and pick it up. All you have to do is call them. You know their schedule. Call them on that, prior to that schedule and say, yep, here's my address. I'll have it curbside. I think it's pretty easy, and if it becomes problematic, then we have to figure something out. But right now, I think that's the easiest, and it's easy to isolate the issue. Your exact concern was why I was like, I don't want one of those big bins that everybody can just stuff things in, because it will not just be textiles. It'll be whatever can fit in there, it'll go in there, and then there'll be issues down the road that we have to deal with.
And what if there is other stuff that's in there? What if they do put hazardous stuff in there, or
Right.
biohazard stuff, then I'm sure that's a charge back to the town because they're gonna know where it came from. It's not just like picking up a dumpster on a front load dump truck. Dumpster truck dumping in, it gets all mixed. You don't know where it came from.
Yeah.
This is gonna be specific when somebody goes there to unload it.
Yeah. I guess I'll just say I agree on all accounts, but the reason I lean more towards pickup is because regardless we have to do something. So if we're going to end up with a drop-off bin that's accessible, whether it's monitored or not, then are we, how many man hours are we going to spend trying to follow up on illegal dumping, et cetera, right, to try to mitigate it or prevent it in the future, or even just cost that, dealing with whatever it is. If it's curbside, as much as, we want the town not to be unsightly and have those kind of issues, which we obviously have had in terms of trash, anything goes, other things too, right, already. So we're familiar with what those can entail. At least you know where, the source, you can immediately address it, and it's not somewhere else. Not that makes it a ton easier, but at least it's right there, right? It's on the curb. You need to clean that up. There are, there's rules and regs that back that up, and there's an easy path to someone who can address it. I guess that's the only reason I lean more towards a pickup. But,
Yeah, and to add to that, if you're looking for the bin drop-off, there are currently numerous bins, and there's a Salvation Army right across the bridge from Gill, right over in Turner's Falls. So from our highway department to the Salvation Army where the bin is, it's an additional 5-minute drive. So it'd be, no different than asking somebody from Erving Center to drive to the highway department for somebody from this side, So there is already an organization that has a drop-off location. So if they didn't want somebody coming to their house, or they didn't remember to make the phone call for the day they were coming through, they could drive it the 5 minutes, or from completely on the other side of the town, the 12 minutes it takes to get there, and they would have a location that they could drop it off on. I know you can go to the Salvation Army and just let them know, hey, I've got items to drop. And if they're saying they collect all of these, then you've got a drop-off location right there in a neighboring town. So I think the combination of us offering the at-home pickup and notifying them of drop-off locations that are currently available, I think the two of those combined, I think, puts us in a spot where we're complying with the rules that we have to.
And there is other options. I mean, Greenfield, I believe, is a, is a flat fee, right, for textile drop-off, and it's pretty small. So if you really, don't want to use one of the other methods, I guess that's why I lean that way personally. But I think we had a question or comment. If you
Isn't there currently a drop-off, or wasn't there up until recently, a drop-off box by one of the private organizations somewhere in town, in the center?
yes,
there
but
is one-
It doesn't take everything that is banned.
Right. So it's at the church, in the church parking lot, and they're very specific. They have a list of items. They don't do the same style of reclamation of all of the, they don't create rags. They don't take all of the worn, stained, torn things. They want things that they can repurpose and give to those that are in need, that are easily thrown in a washing machine, laundered, and repurposed to somebody that can use them. So they won't take the items that are torn, stained, ruined.
Do they get stuff outside?
I haven't received reports of that.
I've used them before to get rid of clothing and items, and I've never seen anything outside. And I think part of that is location. It's right on Route 2. I don't know of too many people driving out to the center of Erving to drop their items, but now that it's televised,
Now
maybe they will.
Televised.
Edit that out,
I think
please.
it's checked regularly as well, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I think I've also used it. I feel like I might have seen a bag here and there, but I don't think it's full enough ever because it's maintained regularly to know. So because the nature of the shed or the location, I think whether that was happening or not, you'd have to ask the people managing it because we wouldn't be able to tell necessarily from the outside.
So if there was a container dropped off like that somewhere in town, do they have a regular schedule that it would be picked up and not gone over?
They would have a regular pickup schedule if there was somebody cleaned out their house and decided to go fill the bins, and we called in and said, it's extra full now and we need you to come a week earlier than you normally were planning. They are to be responsive to that. Doesn't mean you catch it every time. But
I'm not opposed to trying it, but every other free thing that we give people just to, help themselves to, it has gotten abused. So, again, if the board decides to want to try it, I'm not opposed to it. I'm just letting you know what the repercussions are that we've already had with the other free drop-off stuff, Bill.
Yeah. And Brian, you mentioned the bin.
Mm-hmm.
Did all of the companies offer a bin, and were all of them? None of them were with contracts, or is that just with Salvation Army, no contract?
Salvation Army was the only one who didn't want a contract. Pay It Forward Recycling is a local company out of Westfield. They were looking for a 1-year contract. But if the board had concerns about that, he'd be open to discussing that with you further. The other, I want to say it was
CMRK
CMRK was looking, I think, for a multi-year agreement. But again, you all are, Chapter 30B says that waste disposal services are exempt from competitive procurement, so you can negotiate as the awarding authority whatever terms make sense, and if the other party comes to the table and meets them, you can make a deal. And
Yeah.
if not, we don't have to proceed.
I think if we had a bin in town that we were monitoring what was going in and what was coming out, the private one, we don't know what they're dealing with what's dropped in there. I wouldn't want to get into a long contract with anybody for something new. I would, I would lean towards the Salvation Army only because we could try it for a while. It would be under, if that was the location, we'd be in direct contact with them saying, what are the items you're receiving and is it being misused? And clearly say that that option's not working if it's being misused and just terminate it effective immediately. If it's working out great, it's working out great. But I would hate to be tied into a year or multi-year approach where we're now stuck saying, okay, well, you keep getting illegal dumping in there and we have to keep sending it to you because we can't stop it. I don't like that one. So if we were to go with one, I would say Salvation Army, just for the simple fact that they don't want a contract. They just want to go as,
They're even open to, from their standpoint, as a nonprofit, and they're a much larger organization than many of these other ones. They're not looking to make a profit off of this, but they use those funds to fuel their operations for their social services. But they're not looking for like a no-compete clause or anything like that. So if the town wanted the Salvation Army box, and then there was another vendor that you also had a relationship with, and they also wanted the box there, that doesn't matter to them. If people want to choose, I support this cause over this cause, and so I'm going to donate my textiles to that. That's also something that we could do. I don't want to make this bigger, but I'm just saying that from a contractual standpoint, usually we're talking about how tight something is. This isn't one of those situations where.
Glenn, how much room do you have? How many bins should we put down there?
One.
I knew the answer
more than
before.
none,
Yeah, I knew the answer before I asked the question.
I guess it would depend on, what people are bringing down.
Yeah, and if we were to do a bin, that's why I said I think using the Salvation Army with the simple fact that if we find out after 3, 4, 5 months that it's fantastic and there's no issues, then we continue doing it. And if we find out that we've been monitoring it and it's been problematic, then we have the option to say, please come get your bin. We're not going to offer it anymore. Simple. And we can still simultaneously, because they're offering curbside as well, correct? We could still, put out the thing saying it's not on us. We just contact, you contact them directly, and they'll come to your house and pick it up if you can't make it. And that gives, for people with mobility issues or they don't drive, they don't have a location to bring it to, somebody can come to them. So it's not optimal for me to see another bin down there, but the fact that we can close that one down if it becomes problematic eases my, concern a little bit.
I feel like it's coming back to me.
It is.
I noticed CMRK does local Bernardston.
Yep.
Did you reach out to them at all and ask them their experience?
We can definitely follow up.
I didn't know if I could tell from their letter if it was bin or collection.
My
Pickup?
understanding is they have a bin. I don't know if they offer collection in addition to that.
Okay.
But that I believe, is a new contract in the last, this answer came in a little bit ago, but it was over the last few months since this transition towards a waistband option was being implemented.
I believe there are a couple bins right in the center of Berniston at the intersection of Brattleboro Road and Church Street, I think it is,
Okay. Yep.
right at the pizza place.
Got it. Is there other information? That was, I think, Brian's first question that we would want before we move towards a decision. And no, I'm not trying to stall, so I don't have to weigh in. Just want to make sure we have everything we need before we make some decision. I mean, at the end of the day, we could do nothing and just notify. I'm not saying that we should. I'm just saying that is like
No,
the
I'd
third
still like to do
option.
something. I mean,
Yeah,
it's,
I agree.
The town historically has, ensured that we go above and beyond to make sure that the services
Yeah.
are offered, if it's something that can be done. And I wouldn't want to change that.
And supporting the goal of recycling. If we didn't, the likelihood that we have more or less recycling is high.
Yeah.
So,
As far as, no, I mean, you gave the information of the 4 there. Again, I mean, I'd be fine if we just did a bin, home pickup. It's really out of the town's oversight at that point. We give the notification to everybody. It's up to the resident to make the call. They're not calling the town hall, they're calling the organization directly.
Right.
We don't have to worry about it, we don't have to pick it up. We just have to deal with any aftermath if there's stuff left and,
Right.
you know. But that's the case with trash pickup. They might put things out that aren't being picked up, and we deal with that every Friday anyways. So that's really no different. I'd be fine if we did just that, and if we wanted to add a bin, I would say that we would go with the Salvation Army for those two, that purpose of the no contract.
Other information, or are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. I don't think we should do it at all, but that's my personal belief is that I think we do enough, and I think it has never been an issue or a problem in town to begin with or anywhere else that I know of. As a resident, I take all my stuff to Salvation Army, just like everybody else does. So if I had my way, we wouldn't do anything. We just pass on the information and make it available to people and let them do what they may.
I think for me the difference is just that now there's a ban. Because
Right.
while I do the same generally with things that are reusable, I don't necessarily do it with stained, dirty, beyond useful life because, well, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I
it
didn't
was to
realize that
extent.
Salvation Army,
And that
right,
they
these
used them
companies
and
would
took
take
them to
them.
that level, right? So more of an awareness issue. But that doesn't mean that people don't just throw them in the trash, which is not an option anymore. It's not supposed to be. So, and I feel like having a bin service that whether the town contracted it or not, it's the onus on the business and the homeowner to negotiate that arrangement as needed. Then that's as out of our hands while still offering something, I think, that is no cost, right? I mean, there's no cost to those. So I feel like it's a happy medium and we don't have a bin that we might have to maintain, manage, whatever.
And if the three of you choose to do something, it doesn't preclude a resident from availing themselves of any other option that they
Correct.
want to.
Absolutely.
There's no,
This is just
it's an option.
an option that we can notify them that we put out there in case they weren't able to go find their own option.
Right.
Well, and I think we can illustrate those things. There
Yeah.
are these options.
Right.
Whether we've contracted them or not, the Salvation Army is right nearby. The Greenfield Transfer Station does allow non-residents, right? All those things.
Yeah.
So
So
I guess at the end of the day, well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, having said that, I would go back to my original stance of if we were to offer anything, we can offer the information that they can coordinate with the Salvation Army for pickup at the home and leave it at that and not even do a bin because there's already options for bin drop off. And in the letter that we send out for information, we let them know that you can avail yourself of any option, but the town will be coordinating with this as a service. Here's the contact number, here's what you do, and use that service accordingly.
Did I miss that in there? Did they do pickup?
I asked them that, yes.
Okay, I guess I missed it.
Yeah.
And I asked them if there was a certain frequency because some areas were saying once a month, others were saying quarterly. They said that they are in our area approximately every week. So they didn't say like it's a Friday pickup, but
Sure.
they would work with us to identify a reasonable schedule. And
What
they
makes
thought
sense
they'd
for
be here
them.
about once a week.
I think just yeah.
So would that be a contract or would that be just informational to residents saying they're here, coordinate with them, that's it? And we're hands off from there?
I'm told they don't want a signed contract with us, but they will arrange the service with us. And if it no longer suits us, we can have that conversation with them and they will.
Yeah, I think if we work with them and say,
Yeah.
you know, if they're telling us that they can be available once a week, and we're letting them know that we would like to put that in our informational and you know, define a day that they believe works for them and their organization, we're the conduit to pass along the information, and after that, it's just the residents coordinating with that agency.
I don't even know if you need to pick a day. I mean, they can call and find out what day they're going to be
True.
around, right? I mean, it doesn't even need
Yeah.
to be a set thing.
True. And let them determine that.
Yeah, I mean, from there, I was leaning that way in that general sense. You know, CMRK said, contract or not, it was a 30-day notice to get out of it. So I'm like, well, it's an easy way to get there. But if Salvation Army is just a totally hands-off and we can be totally hands-off, then I think that's about as close to not doing it as we can get, and
Yeah, you're
and still providing an option, you know.
right. You're letting another agency provide the option.
Yeah,
We're just
that's
notifying of
ideal.
what's available.
Yeah.
I think that's the best option.
All right.
So you want me to work with Salvation Army to arrange for a situation where the curbside pickup service will be advertised to the residents? in town?
Yes, and whether or not they want to do the advertisement, they want us to, preferably, I would like them to create something, and
They do all of that.
And
Each of these companies have their
and
own
they'll
meeting
send it
set.
right to you, and then we can put it in the around town and notify everybody, and,
We can do a mailing too, I think,
Yeah.
just because it's a waste ban, we should
Yep.
do a mailing and,
Yep.
and just let
Direct
everyone
mail.
know.
Yep.
Here's what's banned, they know all the informational pieces, then we can add the options pieces, right? Here's the ways that we know of that you can arrange for and or take to. And
Yeah.
obviously there are many other bins in other areas you're welcome to.
We'll do a supplement this year to our trash guide that we do every June. And next year we'll incorporate into that, so it's all part of that same annual mailing. But this, because it's a new process, we'll do that. Okay?
And I think if there's any issues, we can, aggregate that information and come back to it in, 6 months or whatever and review as we get into leading up to next year if we have some other thing we feel we should do. But
Okay.
hopefully it's no news and it's good news. So,
Excellent.
all right. So I don't think any motion needed. We're not just going to be
Just
informational
advisory.
about it.
Yep.
And sorry, Glenn, you're not going to get another bin yet.
Oh, that's okay.
I know you were
Thanks
looking for one.
Thanks
I
for
know you
asking
were
my
hoping.
opinion.
I know you were
No.
hoping.
The
It's-
only
it's
other
important.
item
Thank you.
related to that is the mattress ban that came with it, but we
Yep.
already have a
Yeah, I was going to
process.
say, we have a process.
So
Right.
Glenn and I will review whatever changes are coming, and we'll work with our vendor on those changes. There's no new process we have to put into place.
Okay. Yeah, that's by appointment with a fee. It's the same as it has been.
They're
Yeah.
already isolated.
Yep. Okay.
For years. It's been like that for years.
Yeah, right. That's part of our list of things outside of what anything goes will take. Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome. Meeting minutes of September 21st, 2022.
Make a motion, we accept the meeting minutes of September 21st, 2022 as written.
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No. We had August 29th from carried over, right?
If we
Did
can
I?
carry those two,
I'm sorry?
if we can carry those two,
Yes.
and I will get that ready for you.
The August and September 14th?
Yep.
Okay. And then we had a resignations from the Historical Commission. From Eric Duffy and John Rice. So I want to thank them both for their many years of service and appreciate it, which leaves us continuing to add and remove from the list of vacancies regularly. So we have 2 openings there now. And that has gone out, went out with the most recent round.
And the around town that you should have in your mailbox is either tomorrow or the next day, yes.
Okay. Jump down to review of the no smoking policy first reading. Any initial comments?
Nothing yet.
Bill, good for now?
I'm good for now. I guess the only concern I might have is in the past, when I was on the, when I was chair of the Recreation Commission, we did have outdoor problems and issues with people smoking around kids and so that was always an issue and concern, that someone would decide to do that, and we We had some issues. In fact, it got to the point we had to write a letter to one gentleman and say, you know, we will take further action if you continue to persist to do this, but it's not welcome, even though it's an open door arena. Other than that, that's my only concern with, I have no problems with the smoking indoor policy.
Do you want me to see if there's a way I can suggest language that addresses that concern in this policy? Or are you thinking I need to bring forward one that deals with outdoor recreational venues?
You know, I don't want to make a big deal out of it. I don't think we need to.
Okay.
I haven't heard anything recent. It's just a concern. And
Let me look in to see if I can find just some language that would speak to that concern.
Okay.
And if the three of you would like it, you
Yep.
can incorporate it. And if you want to pause on that, then we can always adjust it in the future if it does become a concern again.
okay.
Kind of on the same thread in the section 2, 50 feet of an entrance. It would probably, I know you have some language, or maybe we can take it from voting statutes where that's fine, but if 50 feet away is private property, that doesn't apply. You know what I mean? There are places where 50 feet from town building entrance is someone else's private property, and you can't regulate that. So I, just maybe a little footnote to that sentence, you know, that follows it. There's some caveat language that we can just stick in there just to be comprehensive. That would be the only thing that I've seen so far.
Okay.
First read on bloodborne pathogen exposure control plan policy. Anything there?
I have no concern.
Not yet? Okay. We'll go back up to discussion regarding restoring police department K-9 program. Chief Holst, you want to join us? We'll begin your list this evening, sir.
I got my suitcase of stuff. Can I just push
The other
this back
three-
a little bit?
Yes.
I've been told I look like I'm in the camera.
We do that on purpose,
We
Chief.
want to make you larger than life, sir.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for having me.
Welcome. Bringing lots of stuff for us to think about tonight.
Yes, I know.
That's good. We welcome it. So we'll start with the K-9 program. You put together a proposal and lots of supporting information toward that. Didn't mean it like that. That's a good thing. For us to read through, obviously, you were intimate with the program we had prior that discontinued. And so it shows in your detail in what it takes and what that would look like going forward. So if you want to give us just a real high level, obviously we have it here, what you're recommending that we do in terms of incorporating it for the audience and the viewers, and then kind of we can go from there with any questions or discussion around the program. Sure.
Obviously, thank you for having me. And it's a near and dear program to my heart. As you guys know, I was the officer that ran the program before. And we did away with the program just because I received promotion. And I know the amount of work that it takes to run a successful K-9 program. And with the promotion, it just was too much work. And so seeing how successful the program was, the outpour from the public. I mean, I know when we did it before, there was people, we were making a town flag, and people wanted to put badge on the town flag. And I mean, you couldn't go a summer without 5 or 6 different venues wanting him to come and do a demo. So it really brought the police department and community together in a way that I don't want to speak before I was here, but definitely since I had been here in 2011 and then bringing the program in, the outreach to the community was tremendous. So that's a huge plus. Basically, just what I would be looking to do is do exactly what we were doing before, not recreating the wheel. We'd be looking at a bloodhound. I think that it serves several purposes. I think it serves as a you know, people can come and see it and pet it and not be intimidated by it, as opposed to maybe some other breeds. We would not be looking to do, we would be looking to do just strictly human scent tracking, or trailing is what they call it, for missing people, Alzheimer's patients that go wandering. We would also do the criminal side of, you know, your house gets broken into, or a place gets vandalized. We would use the dog in that, for that resource as well. But we would not be doing narcotics work and stuff like that. And the reason why I choose the bloodhound breed over, you know, a shepherd or a Malinois or whatever is, it's a single purpose dog. So it's focused on just one thing, tracking somebody that was here and where did they go, as opposed to trying to do that, trying to do narcotics work, trying to do evidence recovery. You know, give somebody many tasks and they might be decent at them, but you give somebody one task and typically they're going to excel at that. And plus, I also believe that there's plenty of other resources out there in the community. Franklin County, where there are state police have shepherds, the jail has a shepherd, Montague, Orange, Greenfield. But from my understanding, there's no bloodhounds in Franklin County. And I want to say if there are any in Worcester County, I want to say there's 3 in Worcester County. I could be wrong on those numbers. What I would be looking to do is obviously outfit a cruiser. You know, I think you would need to provide the officer who's handling the dog a way to transport the dog safely to and from work and to and from calls. The officer would be on call, you know, similar to like what our DRE officer is on call in the event that they're needed, they would be responding. So I think that having a cruiser at their house would be smart, as opposed to trying to drive them in their own personal vehicle and or come to the station, pick the dog up, or, you know, that we're not equipped to have the dog at the station 24/7 either. So in addition to that, I have spoken with a few people, and I can't take all the credit. I did have assistance with our office. I don't know if I should name who they are, but I did receive a lot of assistance from one of our officers in contacting vets, and we used North County Vet in the past, and they have already agreed to give us a very good discount. I want to say it was either 50 or 65%.
Yeah, on the estimates it was 50%.
Yeah.
I've also reached out to Greenfield Co-op, and they're willing to give us a discount on food. I believe we received the 5 or 10%.
Yeah.
We haven't, I actually ran into Jeff, who runs the Greenfield Co-op down at the Fall Festival, and I had mentioned it to him, and he said, yeah, absolutely, we can talk. So he didn't say yes, but I mean, he made it sound like he would definitely be interested. You know, I know the training that goes into it. I know that I have the resources, the connection still to make sure that the officer that will be handling the dog will get appropriate training. I understand that firsthand, what it takes, the training that'll be needing, the certifications that will be required. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah. And I think you put lots of different numbers in here, and I think there's different ways we can talk through how we might go at it if we choose to go in that direction. One-time expenses probably less than 15,000, and probably from a minimum standpoint, right? Recurring in the same ballpark, a little bit less than 15.
Yeah, and that all,
obviously.
That's all. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns, you know. I mean, I have a department of 5 officers, a sergeant and 4 officers. You know, I don't want to exclude anybody from applying.
Of course.
But if I look at, because I know my staff, I probably have a good idea of who the officer will be or is interested in. They may not require as much equipment because they may have already have equipment at their house or something like that. We do have a canine lined up. I think I quoted $2,000 at max because I know that dogs can be expensive depending on their level of training. I've already made contacts with somebody and the other officer that assisted me in this process. And we have found a bloodhound for a female. I want to say she's a year old or just over a year old for $300, $300 or $350. They're just looking for a donation fee. And we can act on that. I could act on that tomorrow. They were kind of waiting to hear what they knew that I was in the process of preparing this program to you guys.
Okay. Thank you, and I'll open up for questions or thoughts.
I looked through it. I mean, I remember when you brought the program into town. I'm glad you're bringing it back to try and reinvigorate this program and bring it back to the town. You talked about the recurring expenses, in here through compensation. Obviously, call outs. It's time and a half. You're going to get, you call anybody out after hours. It's time and a half. Looking through the FLSA about options, I'm more familiar with the compensation of by time off, and I think there's a model that I'm familiar with. They work 7-hour days. It actually gives them more hours than what is the minimum requirement of 3.5 a week. If they work a 5-day week, it's 5 hours. But you work a 7-hour day, you use that extra hour every single day for the time that's required to work with the dog, for the extra time that it takes to train and do all those things. And then every 2 weeks you have a training day to ensure. And there's currently, I think, Tuesdays is locally. All the canines get together and train every other Tuesday. If we were to move forward with it, which I would be in favor of, I would look to do some sort of, have conversations about that style of compensation, paying out the money and then still requiring them to work a full 8-hour shift and do all of those, to me is, I don't think it's necessary. I think, the combination of, if you can have them leave work an hour early every day or come in an hour late, or if they need an hour in the middle of the day even, whenever it suits to give time off. But obviously, within reason, even in the FLSA, it says when feasible to do so. Maybe time off with vacations doesn't work, and for that amount of time we don't allow for it, and we compensate financially instead.
And that's why I would personally ask that we don't make it narrow to that it is time off. When we're staffed at 6 officers, 2 part-timers, sure, right? We could probably figure that out. If the officer's working day shift, we just have to remember 4 10s. So do we give 2 hours off every shift, or do we give an hour and a half off?
It's 4 hours. It's 3.5 hours a week.
3.5 hours a week.
Minimum, right.
At a minimum,
yeah,
3.5. So if they were working 4 days and they worked 9 hours instead of 10, then that's 4 hours a week that we've given them for training purposes.
And I would say we would do that, but not make it narrow, because then we lose an officer or we go short-staffed.
Yeah.
Now we just have to be prepared to now pay them that 3.5 hours.
Correct.
Yep.
So my preference, if this does go forward, would be that the preference is they work less hours and they're compensated in time when it's feasible to do so based on staffing levels.
And we currently are doing that, Mr. Basharesh. For an example, we have an officer that's at training all week this week. It was a training that benefits us as a town, as a department, and he's getting good leadership training. But it wasn't a requirement. He wanted to do it. I am more than happy to send him. That's his week to work.
Right.
As opposed to going to training and then coming in and working at night.
Yeah.
So
same thing. I mean, I think if we just did it on an hourly, 4 1-hour time blocks every day, you allow that to happen. And obviously with flexibility, now they have a training day,
that
every
would
2
be their whole
weeks,
day,
and that would be their whole day.
Yep.
And you you'd work it out, and if you have 2 people on vacation and you can't afford to have them go, or you have an active call and they can't go for that hour, then you
Then we pay them.
you flex it.
Yep.
And you do
I
what you
agree.
need to do.
I agree.
But I mean, I'm in support of it. Hearing that we could, you have a phone call away, a canine that's available for a couple of $100 is fantastic, as opposed to 2,000. Now, the other costs that you put in there, are those things that you would be putting forward for capital expenditure for this year, or is that something that you think you could work out of your current finances? I'm just curious what your thoughts were.
My thoughts are, we're probably going to be getting a new cruiser. I know that we're going to discuss that.
Yeah.
It would maybe make sense to, we're going to put a transport cage in it anyways. Maybe we put the canine cage in it. So that would be a wash.
Right.
As far as like kennels go, I don't think we need to rush to build a kennel. One reason why we had a kennel with badge is a former employee was allergic to dogs.
Okay.
We don't have that issue now. There's no reason why the canine cannot be in the station. Montague does it, Orange did
Right.
it for years. So as long as it's not a disruption to staff or daily activities. So there's no rush to build a kennel right now. If, depending on who the officer is that would apply and receive the position, there's not a rush to build a kennel at somebody's house. So I guess what I'm saying is that I think that I can manage it with the budget I have.
Overtime.
Overtime, I think I'll be all right. I mean, looking at my overtime budget, it's doing well. I know that we're early in the year.
Yeah.
So I don't want to say that we're great there. But I don't, other than the purchase of the dog and getting a cruiser equipped, I think those are the 2 expenses. Outside of that,
Yeah, and when I said overtime, wasn't questioning your overtime.
You didn't mean overtime as one
I
word,
think
you meant.
I meant you could incorporate these pieces over time.
overtime.
I wasn't questioning your.
You could do a kennel and-
You have an overtime budget already. Sure, this might incur a couple of extra calls for a missing person or a break-in that you are responding to in town or assisting another town. But I don't think the number of calls that you'll be getting will be so high that it's going to kill your overtime.
And the
budget.
reality of it is that we have to get the dog. The dog's got to get trained, and the officer's got to get certified.
It's going to be a while before we get
So
there.
there's going to be a while process there. We're probably the team's not going to be up and running until probably summertime, anyways.
Right.
But if I can secure the dog, and the dog can get acquaintance and socializing and beginning the training process to implement the program come next July or once certification is met.
And if we're doing an hour-based compensation, whatever, but time off hours in lieu of, instead of overtime pay for those times, then obviously that's already budgeted in theory.
Well, yeah, we've already budgeted them.
Time,
We're
a
just-
little bit of overtime is what it is. A little
Yeah.
bit of training cost is what it is.
Well, that's why I was looking at that as the option. It's by giving them the hour a day off the clock per se to be with the dog doing what they need to do for at-home care or for whatever they're doing. We've already budgeted for their 40 hours of pay. They're either going to do it in a cruiser driving around town or they're going to do that for 36 and they're going to do 4 hours throughout the week at home, care for the dog. It's the same thing.
Right.
They're working. They're just not doing it in the cruiser driving around on patrol. So just a different style of work. So no cost there.
We would probably have to look, now that I'm thinking about it, would be, obviously if we get the dog right away, we're going to be looking at vet care right away.
Yeah. Yeah, and you had
I know I had mentioned.
All sorts of estimates
The
in there.
tacking and stuff, usually you don't do that until 2 or 3 years old anyway,
Yeah.
so that wouldn't be an initial cost for vet care. Probably what we'd be looking at is just an initial, this is our dog, is it healthy? You know, flea and tick type stuff.
Yeah, but the off-the-ground costs, especially if we took, and Chief and I spoke a little bit about that, determining what cruiser, if we move forward, gets outfitted, is obviously a question mark, but we do, in theory, are hopefully getting one sometime coming up that's not outfitted, so you don't have the change cost. You just have the outfitting cost you're already planning to bear, maybe slightly different because of the cages, or
Yeah, the ca-
costly slightly, but it's not all over again, right?
Right.
Where we, retrofitting would be a,
And I don't even know, Chairman Smith, so we just looked at a cage transport for car one, 44 something for.
pretty close to, yeah.
And so, yeah, and the one that I think I gave you guys was quoted for the dog bowl for an emergency door opener, window stuff. With the Bloodhound, you don't need all that. I mean, the officer's not going to be outside their cruiser and hit a panic button to open up the door. The Bloodhound's going to come out and slobber you to death, It ain't going to scare too many people.
Yeah.
But those added things that were in that is more like designed for the shepherd breed.
Right.
Right.
I know for me, the kennel that we had previously, and we still actually have that in the ACO vehicle. We still have that. It was just the basic, there was no alarms, there was no,
Right.
Right.
Bill, you're looking at me.
So I don't have a clear understanding of the cage in the cruisers. You need to transport prisoners, so I assume the cruiser will have access for prisoner transportation as well as a dog cage.
Correct.
How does that work?
So back in the old days, when you were an EPO, they had just the one solid piece, right? That was divided from the driver passenger seats, and it was one solid piece. Recently, they've gone to what's now the split, so you can still have a normal seat, driver seat, passenger seat, transport seat. With the canine cage, it still provides you with the transport for anybody. I don't want, not just the prisoner, but anybody can be transported in there. And then the other side that is now open for just a regular seat, what they do is they just modify that with a flat,
Platform.
platform, and then it's still surrounded with the cage. The door slides, so you can have the door open so the dog can be kind of up in the front area, or you can push the dog back, close the door. So it's basically it's still just one solid piece, just divided off.
Okay.
So
Like
you
a
still
60, like a 60-40 bench,
60-40.
and like 60 for the dog, 40 for transport.
40 for
and it's
transport.
divided and secure and safe,
Yep.
right? Yep.
on both sides.
Right.
So my second question is having a dog and training, the training relationship between the dog and the officer is extensive. We have a department that's relatively small, and we have lost people fairly quickly. In a circumstance where we lose one or two people, what happens to the dog?
Just so you are aware, Bill, the dog would be assigned to just one officer.
Right.
My hope is that this would motivate somebody to want to stay. This maybe wouldn't be an opportunity that somebody would have at another department. Or usually when you go to a bigger department, 30, 40, 50, 60 people, you're the new officer, you don't get anything. So here is an opportunity for somebody to do something that they probably are not going to get an opportunity to do somewhere else. My hopes would be that they would stay. In the event that we had 2 or 3 people leave, but the officer handling the canine stayed, there would be no disruption between the handler and the canine. In the event that the handler left, we already have a policy in place that spells out the dog belongs to the town of Erving. The dog would then be, there would be obviously a discussion with the age of the dog, the condition of the dog. Is there anybody else in the department that is capable of taking the dog and building a relationship with the dog and continuing that training? If those are all yes, then we would give the dog to another handler. Obviously, we're a small department, so I've spoken with my staff. We have individuals that I think are ready for this position now, and we have a great opportunity in another 3 to 5 years for a young officer to learn and be in that position to step into it. If the dog is old, getting ready to retire, the handler retires, we would obviously have that conversation with the handler. Hey, you've built this relationship with this dog. It's now become part of your family. We will allow you to take it. What does that look like? I don't know. I think some departments make their handlers purchase the dog back for $1. You know, I mean, if you get 5, 6, 7 years of training with the dog, it's hard to just say, okay, we're going to take your dog now. Just
And I was going to say the career lifespan. I don't know about the bloodhounds, but the
they're
shepherds,
longer, but
they're typically 6 is kind of like your average. Anywhere from, I've seen them go a little bit longer, but
the bloodhounds, I think you get a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Scott, just because they're not doing the jump and the
right.
But
So,
but our policies do clearly I have a copy of it. I can leave it for you guys. That would discuss and address that issue that you bring up.
So you had some information in your packet about the VEST program. So I assume that's a grant.
Yeah.
Grant
So
for a vest and protective vest that the dog would wear.
correct. So back when we had badge, I don't know, maybe you remembered, we had the camouflage one, and it was actually really nice. They did a really nice job with it. They embroidered his name on it. You could put Erving on it. You could put the patch on it. It was really nicely done. It was all donated for free. In addition to that, in your packet, there are other funds that you can request. Maybe we can request a transport cage for one of our cruisers. And I would have that discussion with the officer that was wanting or interested in the program. Part of it needs to be that they need to understand that these possibilities exist, and they have to be willing to accept that responsibility of trying to apply for these funds as well. I mean, I'm more than happy to help them. I'm more than happy to be the signatory, but I think that some of it has to fall on their desire to do it as well.
So before I ask you my last question, and I am in support of the program, and it's a great public relation.
It is.
It's good for the town and the community, and being able to reach out and help other communities as well. It's a dual purpose, and I'm in favor of that. I don't quite understand the comfort part of that. What does that entail, and what does that mean?
I think so. I don't understand a lot of it either, Selectman Benberry, but say, for example, we have a situation at the library where, a family comes in and maybe there's a bad experience there, not because of the library, but just maybe something happens outside of the control of the library. Maybe I won't use the library because I don't want to say that the library is a bad place, because it's not.
Someone had a fire in their house.
A fire in their house, and they lost everything. We potentially could bring the bloodhound to that scene, and maybe there's a couple children that are just really devastated, and maybe, I know you see a dog and it's like you kind of forget about your worries, you forget about your concerns, and you kind of focus on the dog. So that's kind of the comfort aspect. We do have an officer that has training and has experience.
I was just going to mention Greenfield PD had I think it was Canine Donut, I think was his name or her name.
That's the young one.
That's the young one.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's
Clarence
sole-
was the one that had
Clarence
just
was
the
recently
sole
passed away.
purpose of being a comfort dog, and it does functions. I think our dog, the sole purpose or the primary purpose would be tracking.
Tracking.
Right.
However, it does double as because it's a bloodhound.
It's
and
friendly.
It's friendly,
Right,
and
And so you may have an opportunity to bring the dog
Okay,
in and just
okay.
kind of,
So we're not looking at loaning him out or anything like that to make people feel good?
no. No. No.
If you, I mean, not to get into it in too detail, but if you look up Clarence, there's a lot of articles out there about
Okay.
him and what they did with him.
Sandy Hook, you know,
Sandy
Sandy
Hook,
Hook.
yeah. 9/11,
Yeah.
I believe.
It is pretty impressive. And the
then
way
the White
that,
House, I mean,
Yeah.
it's quite an impressive career that he had.
yeah. And people just respond, I don't know. I love dogs, right? Like you see a dog and it's like you kind of forget, I don't know.
They just make you feel good, and
They
can help
do.
with stress.
I
It's just-
babysat
that's what the
Bryant's
idea is, right? They
for
just help you with
several hours.
You can lose a lot of time with a dog, at least I can. So I think that's kind of the basis behind it. But if you're interested in what it is, I'm sure one of our officers has lots of experience that could
Okay.
explain it to you better than I can. Or you can read about what they've done and what that concept's about out there too.
That's all I get.
So if you would, you don't need to give it to us, but if you would email that policy, I'd like to read it
I
just
can-
to understand it. Yeah, that's
Actually,
fine.
I can send it to you all right now.
Okay.
thank you. Just so we have it.
Yeah, just so we have it. Being a dog person, I'm more of the, there's that bond relationship, and that's hard to break and rebuild, if you will. So that concept, in a short, if it's a short period, I get that that's maybe possible, but I'm one that would more lean towards if a handler's bonded with their dog, then you figure out how if the handler wants to, the dog goes with the handler.
Right.
If they, depart.
Right.
That's just my personal feeling. I'm not saying we change our policy or anything today, but that's where I come from
Yeah.
as a dog person and understanding the bonding piece. And then, obviously it's not an apprehension, kind of, which is a different bond, but
I remember when we had Badge, it just so happened that I got promoted.
Right.
And I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't looking for it. It is what it is. But he had such a drive and was only a couple years old, 4 years old. And we just knew, and there was another police department in Connecticut that, the handler had just lost his dog, and it was just a perfect fit. And then the handler and Badge got another 5-6 years together. So,
Nice.
but to your point, Chairman Smith, I agree. I think that
I think it's situational, I guess. Maybe what I should
Situational.
say, each one's different, but I think, I would always lean towards that. And I think that sounds like the policy gives you the discretion to
It
what
does.
makes the most sense for both
And the
parties.
policy also does indicate here that, somebody that is willing to take on this position, I know you can't hold their feet to the fire per se, but we're looking for 5 years
Okay.
for somebody that,
And so that leads to my other question, which would be, programs down the road, handler, dog, both, one or the other departs. Well, we'll assume the handler and possibly the dog depart. What is the continuity on the program, right? And I'll just take Bill's example. We're down a few officers, right? Unfortunately, that's a reality we've experienced too many times. And one of those is the handler. Obviously, we may not be in a position to continue the program in that moment, but is there an expectation that an officer has to take that role at some point? Is that something we can even do, or is it
Can't
it's just
force
a
it.
preference? Okay.
can't
Yeah.
force it.
Just because I think, if we have it again, to then not have it for a while and kind of this back and
Right,
forth, I think, obviously, I would prefer we always had it. I understand totally that you can't force that, but
Right.
how do we try to
So
have
one of the
constant-
things I was thinking of is if we were to go with this and outfit a cruiser with the canine, the cruiser that would be the canine cruiser, it is a regular cruiser that can transport one prisoner back and forth as needed.
Right.
So you can still utilize that. Let's say 6 years from now something happens and we don't have anybody, we don't lose a cruiser. We just take the canine marking off of it and it's a regular cruiser, and you can only put, you can still use that cruiser.
No, I think you got what I was trying to say back.
No, what I'm
Oh,
saying
okay, go ahead.
is, so you don't lose anything. So when you have the staff that needs to come back, you already have that cruiser. You already have the ability to move a cage, to keep the program going. So the infrastructure of doing it, the policy that's there, so it's really more of the drive of the administration of the department and the Board of Select looking at it saying, we want to continue the program. We don't, if the person leaves, which inevitably everybody leaves the department
Right.
at some point, for whatever reason, it won't be us sitting here in, 8, 10 years. Please.
No, it won't.
So inevitably, we will have a gap in service unless you are planning for that in advance and saying, we want to get a second dog because we know this one will be retiring, or we know this person is looking to, let's say the handler themselves is looking to leave department, but they say, I want to give you a 2-year notice. I am going to be moving out of the state, or,
Right.
however it comes up. I think with the idea that the chief and the board are on board with keeping the program alive, you make that work. And you'll probably have a lapse in service unless you have enough advance notice that you can work that in. Otherwise, you'll.
That makes sense. But the continuity is that it's always a program that we're trying to continue as opposed to it came, it went.
I
came,
agree.
it went.
And
Yeah,
honestly,
okay.
looking at it, when I first became chief, I wanted to bring the program back anyways. And now where we're at, I knock on wood, I potentially could see the dog
Yeah, don't
going
say
to
it.
a handler. 3, 5, I don't know.
Sure.
With a great officer in the waiting that we have for hopefully 10 to 15 years. So looking at where the department is right now, we are better off with people's interest than when I got promoted and we didn't have anybody else.
Well, I think too, discussions we continue to have, it's another option for officers to
I agree.
gain knowledge, experience, skills that are not straight promotions. That maybe it's a way to incentivize officers to stay, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Hopefully. And if there's support, obviously, for continued program from the board, the chief, et cetera, then when you're hiring, if you're in that situation, you can look for someone who has a preference for that as maybe as a bonus too, right?
Yeah,
So,
maybe you get somebody with 5 years, 6 years experience that says, I would love to come there and be a canine handler.
Right.
We have that option.
We can always throw that in there and say, there's a preference for
mean,
someone
I
who's
know when
interested with experience, right?
When I came to Erving, I had that conversation with Chief Blair that, I had built this canine program in my former, where I left, and they gave it to somebody else because that's the way it goes in big agencies, seniority. And so that's why the program started, because somebody came here interested in that.
I don't have any questions about the rest of the information that you provided. I think I from a thought process, I could go either way. I could be paid solely as overtime to ensure we had the same staff hours on shift.
Yeah,
And it could be one less hour in the day because it is work that they will be doing. Either way, they're compensated, but it is work, and we don't want to burn people out, right? And so
Yeah.
where we can, I think the preference for where it fits in,
Yeah.
we prefer that.
Right.
Where it doesn't, it's overtime.
And that's why I would just ask that you guys would leave it to me.
As
If looking at the budget, if I have the money and, okay. Or-
Collaborative in nature, I think, between you and whoever this candidate would be when they have that position, if it goes forward, I think you collaborate, and it makes sense if your budget allows for them to work their 40 hours and get the 3.5 hours that week because the need of the department, the need of them. Right. You had mentioned, we don't have, in not just we, any small town, there's very minimal movement. You typically have a chief, a sergeant, and patrolman. That's it. That's what you have. There's no detective bureaus. There's no lieutenants. We don't have assistant chiefs. We don't have any of that. So potentially looking at those few hours of overtime as the ability to say, we know you're putting in more work, we can compensate you. So it's a quasi promotion raise.
little extra
They earn it by
something.
putting in the
Yeah,
hours.
yeah.
It's not free money. It's not a raise, but the opportunity.
Well,
to earn-
it is not free money. Trust
You,
me.
yeah,
No, they're
that's what
working
I'm saying.
for it.
You put in the hours.
I mean, you get a puppy, right?
Yeah.
Think about just a puppy that you get at your house, the amount of work.
He's
right?
over here going, yeah, I can tell you right now, it's not.
There's a lot.
It's far
of work.
more than 3.5 hours a week.
And that's why it takes
Yeah.
a special officer to handle,
Yeah, it's far more. So,
I think 3.5 sounds late, and I understand
Yeah.
you got to 5. I feel like we should set some minimum and at least 4. I don't think anything
I think most police
less than a
departments do
planned
4.
4.
Yeah.
It makes any sense
Yeah.
personally.
I,
But,
I think most do 4 because the 5th day, if they're working a 5-day work week, the 5th day is usually training anyway, so it's training all day. And so if they're working 4 other days, they give them an hour a day, and it just works out easier. And again, if they need to work the full 10 that day, then they work the full 10, and
Pay 'em.
you work it out.
Yeah.
At the end of the week, you settle up.
Yep.
and I would personally think you hinted at it. If we can budget accordingly, I would prefer to make it the officer's option. If they want to work there full time and get 4 hours overtime every week because that's what they want to do in that role, then good for them.
Yeah, I think financially, if it's in the budget to do,
As long as we can afford it, I think to
collaborate.
support that as
It's a collaborative nature. It's
their-
not
it's their
a.
Trust me, these
preference
conversations have already been
outside of.
going on.
I'm
Yeah.
sure. I'm sure.
I bet.
I'm also in support of it, obviously.
Absolutely.
I guess, do we need anything else? Any other information at this point?
It was substantial, the packet you
I don't
sent
think
us.
That was thorough.
It was thorough, and I appreciated it. It gave a lot of background,
You put a lot of work into that.
yeah.
Ah. I just changed the date.
I know that's not true.
I had a lot. I
He's
had
been
help.
doing a lot of work.
I had help.
He has been doing a lot of work.
You,
have some
you
expertise
did
right now.
mention interviews for this?
Well, I think,
don't-
I want to make it, I want to make the opportunity for every officer that meets the requirements
Okay.
to apply.
Okay.
I don't want to tell, I can sit as the chief and I can sit and say, I think this person's going to be really great for it. My thought would be is to officially put it out to the department. We are moving forward with this. Who is interested, let me know. If we only get 1 interest, it is what it is. If we get 2 interests or 3. My idea is I've already been in contact with 2 canine handlers that are well respected in the area. They've got 30+ years of canine experience. It would be my thought to have them come and do an interview. That I think that they would know the questions to ask, although yes, I have experience. I don't have 30 years of experience. And then select it that way.
Okay.
If the department, if there's a number of the officers that are interested
Right,
in it.
right.
If there's not, then I
Right.
think that makes the process.
No, that sounds fine to me. My only concern was I don't think it's, I don't think, I've attended most of the interviews when we do interviewing. And I don't see a need to be part of. I think it's in capable hands, and you guys know what you want and what you're looking for, and that you can run with it yourself.
Right, and we're not going outside, outside
right,
agency,
right.
vetting a lot of different people, so.
Okay.
So I'll buy the dog tomorrow.
Makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I don't.
I don't have any reason why we wouldn't move forward with it. We currently have an active policy. It was a position that was within the department already, so we're not creating anything new. We're reinstating something that was here just, about what, 7 years ago or so? So.
And my understanding is that there is support from the department. I mean, I wasn't part of any of your guys' discussions, but talking with my staff, it sounds like they are in support of
I
this.
mean, our
We'll
job
go
up
through
here
that
is,
conversation with
Yeah.
them, with the union, just to make sure, obviously, as appropriate, but
our role up here is, policy, finance, et cetera.
structure.
The structure, the policy's there, the finances we talked about, you feel like with the staggered approach of how you would have to go through the training and the acquisition and all that, you could take care of that internally already. I don't really see any other concern of why we wouldn't just move forward with it.
The only thing I would
Agreed.
say, timing on a vehicle, right now the ACO vehicle's available. If we had to do transport, obviously the dog's not ready and there's going to be a lot of things involved there, but if you needed to before we have one ready, that's probably available.
Yeah, the only
at
thing I
moment.
would ask Chairman Smith is once we get the dog, it's up, I mean, I would imagine we would want to start training. So we would allow the officer to use that vehicle to and from training.
Right.
Of course.
Until there's a
That-
permanent,
That's kind of what I'm.
until there's a permanent canine, vehicle.
Any concerns about it being the newest vehicle that's being outfitted? I mean, it's just economics makes sense if we can get one.
I have no
It makes
concern.
sense if we were going to buy a cage anyways, if there's ability to just buy a different cage. We were going to pay that money to upfit a vehicle anyways.
Then we don't have a surplus one floating around.
Right.
Okay.
I don't
Do you
see
have
an
any
issue with
concerns
that.
with it being the new one? Okay.
I mean, that doesn't matter, right? Yeah, I mean, eventually cars need to be replaced.
Yeah,
If you
right.
put it in the oldest one, eventually that one's gonna need to be replaced. If you
Correct.
put it in the newest one, you're gonna get longer longevity out of it.
My thought was if you're putting it in the new one, you might match the current,
The handler,
yeah.
canine, 10-year.
Thank you.
dog.
The tenure of the dog. I don't want to say the lifespan because the dog will be around for a long time,
Right,
but
right.
the career, the
The
career
active
of the
duty
dog.
period.
Yeah, makes sense.
Plus, it's going to have maybe more mileage being a take-home.
Yep.
But so, you might wear out an older one faster. So, okay. Do you need anything formal? Do we need anything formal? It exists. It's just we're endorsing it. You can afford it.
Bring it back.
Excellent,
Bring it back, yeah.
excellent. Thank you for your support.
And any adjustments next year's budget, just as we're
Yep.
planning that. But
Yep.
I think that's it.
Excellent, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
I might as well stay right here, right?
I was going to say
Yes,
next.
please. Don't
Yeah, I was
go
going to say
anywhere
you
yet.
have
Go back
several
in the
items on this
suitcase
list.
for round 2. Discussion regarding the exploring police department civilian cadet program.
The policy document that I sent over has a different name on it, so I apologize for that. Going forward, I'll put the right title on it.
We were actually thinking about changing that title anyway, so.
To Community Services Officer?
No, changing it from that because it's CSO.
Oh, they got 2 CSOs.
Right.
Yeah.
I just couldn't come up with a clever.
That's the hardest part.
When I was reading and I was like, CSO. But,
Yeah.
If you would like me to,
Yeah,
so,
yeah, just real quick.
as we have discussed, with turnover, I believe bringing a program like this into the department kind of addresses that batter in the on deck kind of situation. And I guess so what I would be looking to do is fluctuate my department between 6 full-time officers and a civilian that we would be looking to send to an academy. And should that civilian go through an academy, graduate the academy, and be fully certified, we would have 7 officers. And we would hold at that. Then if we lost an officer and now we went back down to 6 officers, we would look to hire another civilian to then replenish that position and kind of just have that movement within the department between 6 and a civilian or 7 full-time.
I think just to elaborate in the discussions that Chief and I have had, it would be the idea that our department and our scheduling is with a staff of 6. If
Correct.
we have 7 who are certified and qualified, that's double coverage, that's vacation coverage, that's a bonus, if you will, during that period of time that they're with us. And as long as we have them, they're and certified. And then if we lose an officer, we're down an officer, that one and or someone else. It doesn't change what we would staffed for. So we're not, there's no loss, right? In terms of the standard operating service level.
Yep.
It's great when we have it, but when we don't.
And I'd also just like to point out, gentlemen, a program like this, It's unfortunate. I think in smaller communities, you kind of find somebody and you're like, okay, you know what you're doing, get out on the roads, right? And maybe we do that person a disjustice by maybe they're not quite ready. So now they are timid or they're not fully committed to getting involved. This, I think, gives us the opportunity to really go through policies and procedures with somebody, really teach them the ins and outs of the department, really get a gauge of what type of person he or she is. Make sure that they're physically fit, ready for an academy, as opposed to trying to rush somebody to get them into the academy so we can get them on the streets. So I think it kind of, hopefully, I mean, now you go back down to four officers or 3 officers, and you're like, hurry up, we got to get this person in the academy. It kind of,
So I'm
Defeats it,
a
but-
little confused because you mentioned the cadet program. It takes a period of time to get a cadet ready
yes, it does.
to be available to walk out and do his job.
Enforce the
Put
laws,
him
correct.
in a cruiser and drive off and do his routine for the day. But so I'm in favor of. I am clearly in favor of a 7th officer because it does a number of things. Jake mentioned sick time, vacation time, officer down. It fills that void for us in a way that I think is really good. But I'm not sure about the cadet aspect of it, how you're going to make that work. I can see it working that we brought on a 7th officer. And while that 7th officer is working and able to do the duties of a police officer, there's one in the wings being trained and ready to come on board. But so how are you figuring out
Well, to your
7th
point,
officer?
Selectman Benberry, I mean, you're fully aware. We've gone through the hiring process,
Right.
and we've gotten one full academy-trained officer. I mean, that's what we had this last
Right,
round.
right.
And that was a last-minute, I'm interested. I think we have to be realistic that maybe those days of getting full academy-trained officers and/or part-time academy-trained officers that can come in and start working for us, and then we can lose them for 6 months to an academy, are maybe going away. So when as we've looked to hire, we've gotten a ton of great candidates that have no experience. To your point, okay, sure, it would be great to hire 7, an 8, 9, 10, if you have qualified candidates applying. I think this addresses 6 officers. Sure, it would be nice to grow this department so we could have 2 officers every shift, every day, 24 hours. But I think that this addresses the issue that we're not getting qualified candidates, but this is a way to give a young person, or maybe it's an older person that is looking to get in the career, an opportunity to come in, learn the job, commit time to them, pay them, because people aren't going to just walk away from their full-time jobs to come in here to do it for free, to invest the time in them, to send them to the academy, and then have them to be fully trained. Sure, it would be great to hire 10 full-time trained officers. I just don't think that there's a lot of them out there.
So I just want to throw this out there. I think, Bill, what you're talking about is the difference of the minimum staffing,
Yes.
and as opposed to the cadet program. 2 different
Right,
things.
right.
Minimum staffing right now, we've said it's a 6-person
6.
department. And you're saying that take the cadet program out, you're stance is that you feel 7 should be the minimum.
Right.
Okay, so that's two different conversations. And I'm not disagreeing with you, or I'm just saying those are two different things. This program is, we can pull somebody in that has 0 training, and we can have them on and learn the job in-house at our pace. And when they are ready, we have the benefit of having that 7th person, knowing that it's a 6-person department, but we have the benefit of having a 7th person. We wouldn't backfill for a new cadet until the need arose that cadet became one of the 6, and we would need another cadet. Now, in the future, if we were to go with a program like this, there's nothing to say that in the future we determine that it's a 7-person department, and maybe while that person becomes a full-time, we hire another cadet, and and we don't wait for a vacancy. You can
Right.
grow that way
Right.
as the need of the town grows. You can grow. You're just training them sooner. You're not waiting for that
Right.
somebody to leave the department before you hire another cadet. You get that one cadet through, you get them trained, you get them certified, they become part of your ranks. If we make a determination that that's the new minimum at that point, then that's the new minimum, and we would have to go back and get another cadet to come through.
Right.
So I think we can address that in time, but this program is simply saying, instead of
Staffing
looking
6.
for, it's staying at 6,
Right.
this person is trained, we get the benefit of having a 7th for however long that lasts. And if we have good retention, it might last for a while, and you could end up with 7 officers for several years
Good.
while you're waiting, for somebody to retire,
Good.
being the only way they're leaving.
Right.
Ever. No, I'm kidding.
It's a new policy.
In a perfect world, that's what we're hoping, is that people want to come here and stay here for a long time. So by bringing somebody in and having a policy and a procedure that allows us to bring somebody fresh, having never
Correct.
done any police work, never done a part-time academy, never done any reserve academy, they can get all the training in-house, and when the time is available, we send them to a full-time academy, and we don't have to lose one of our 6 officers to do so. And that way we still maintain our 6 at all times and get the benefit of a 7th. And we only go back down to 6 should somebody leave.
And then we look to hire another.
Hire another cadet. And
It's kind of, I'm trying to be proactive in my
Yeah.
thinking of, okay, we might lose, so let's have somebody ready. Okay,
Yeah.
we've got plenty. Oh, we just lost some. Okay, let's get somebody ready. I'm trying to not run into the situation where we have 3 officers.
It's kind of the baseball analogy. We gotta have someone on the bench.
Somebody
You
on-
got to have somebody on the bench.
Relief
Right,
pitcher,
right.
have someone,
Yeah.
and I think it's even harder as not only the pool, but with posts and everything where the part-time isn't an option, right? We don't have kind of maybe that gateway or that progressive path anymore, right? It's
Right,
all or nothing,
yeah.
right? So
That
I
pathway
think
doesn't
if you're
exist.
not sponsoring, if someone's not sponsoring them,
Right.
I don't even know if they can get in, but even if they could, who's affording that, not working, not being paid, paying to get in, having equipment to even go through it, all those things that it takes to go through full-time academy, which all of you know. And so how do we keep a pool of officers?
Yeah.
How do we try to keep our pool more viable and,
Yeah.
resilient?
I think
is
it
the
has
word
to
I'm
be
looking for.
internal,
So
and I think a cadet program like
unfortunately,
this.
you can't, larger departments, I think we've had the conversation, do this, right? They sponsor.
Yeah, they put out a test and
right, and
they interview 25 people with no experience.
Right.
I mean, when I went to the academy, Leominster had 5 officers that had no experience. They were 5
Just
people
sent them
just
all.
off the street, just
Right.
wanted to become police officers.
Yep.
So,
And they have the depth and bandwidth to do that, I think, although we, as a small town, may not. I don't know if we'll have, I don't think we're going to get to the resiliency nor have, kind of the stability we're looking for without doing something.
and I'm
like
not going to
this.
sit here and say this is the solution. I'm just
See.
trying to find what we're doing isn't working.
Right.
So maybe
Well,
this
and if
doesn't
it-
work, and
If
maybe
it
I'm sitting here
stabilizes
in
the,
2 years and you guys are
the
like,
ups and downs a little bit, even, slightly, it's going to make, to me, it makes a big difference, right? I
Oh,
think
I
your
agree.
7 versus
Yeah.
6 as a
Yeah.
base is a different conversation. It's not what this is
Correct.
trying to do, I don't think.
As long as we can stay stable while the cadet program is someone's in it and bringing them up through the ranks, we're golden, but when somebody drops,
Yeah.
Well, so here's the thing. It doesn't
true.
mean that, again, and I'm not planning on making any sort of, I just saw these guidelines for the first time at 4 o'clock this afternoon. So I don't have can't tell you I read every single word in there. So
It's
I would
great.
need time to.
You should read it. It's great.
I will. I'll read every word later. But I did not have time before the 6:30 start
Brian,
of the
help me
meeting
write it.
to read it all. But that doesn't mean that in the interim, we have somebody that's in the cadet program that we hired and went through this process and they're going through the program. I'm estimating it would probably take, depending on when an academy is available, 6 months to a year
Yeah.
Right.
to get them fully vetted and on the road as an officer. In the interim, should we have somebody depart, that doesn't mean we can't advertise and we get somebody who wants to do a lateral movement from another department, who has full-time training that
Right.
had retired, that wants to come out of retirement and come back to work, or, you may be able to backfill immediately with somebody else. It doesn't stop us from doing that. It just means that should somebody not leave while this person's training, then we're fine.
And
we'll have
to
the
your
staffing.
point,
Right.
to your point, Scott, is you bring up a very good point, and I just thought it. So we hire, and maybe you do get 2 qualified candidates, then you obviously are going to hire them, right?
Right.
But if you don't, you can still put this person into a cadet position.
But you have to have the policy and
But you have
procedure in
to-
place.
Right, and if we go down to 5 and one's in the cadet program, but they're not there yet, we're hiring for a 6th officer.
Yeah, we're putting it back out
right?
for a 6th
If the
officer,
cadet
and they
is
have to have the
ready and
qualifications.
active and fully trained, and
Yeah.
then we're hiring for a cadet and/or, right? We don't have to
Right.
be hiring for
Right.
a full-time trained officer. So it just gives us some, hopefully. It'll take time, and
And-
it may not serve its goal for a while, but
So I think you brought up a good point, though, Bill. We talked about, attracting people to the town for the department. We talked about retention and longevity of keeping people here in several conversations over the last, several months and even longer. This only addresses one piece. I think it addresses the attraction to the town. It allows somebody who before would not have been able to look at Erving as an opportunity that really wanted to get into police work. They have to go find another department that has the ability to take them on as a newbie without going through an academy. I was lucky enough when I wanted to get onto a police department, I don't know, feels like forever ago now, back in 06 or 05, I had a department that sponsored me. So I was able to go to a reserve academy and get the training. And then it was easy when you apply. I'm already trained, I can do a reserve, and I just go do the on-the-job training for a few months while I learned your department. We don't have that anymore. So we need to, in order to get somebody, I think having this in place, we may utilize it once,
right.
and then that person becomes the 7th officer, and we may not have to have another cadet for years,
You may not, yeah. Hopefully.
right? That's the
Right,
hope, is that we may
right.
not have to use it, but we need something in place
Right.
should we need to get somebody, should we want to hire somebody without any training because they fit the mold of Erving of what we want, and they have all the requisite attributes, just not the training. Well, we have a way to do that now.
We interviewed 3 of them, though. That would have
Oh,
been
yeah.
all great
Oh, yeah. No,
candidates.
I
They
know.
just didn't have.
Yeah.
We just didn't have the ability or the mechanism to do it.
Well, we did, but they would have just been sitting around getting
Right.
paid till an academy started.
Right.
We still would have only just had 6 officers.
And I think, not saying it's Irving's burden solely or at all, but the pool of officers is getting smaller.
Yes, it
From
is.
everything I understand. The pool of qualified officers automatically just got smaller with post. That can just do the job. And if there are interested people who want to be in the profession, even if that just means, maybe we sponsor them as a cadet, they are here for, I don't know, say a year and a half, go through that, get certified, maybe we have a year or 2 clause in that, and then they leave for another opportunity, or an existing one does. We know that's going to happen potentially, but if we're expanding the pool, at some point that will pay back. Even if we've been bearing the cost for years,
Right.
eventually the pool will be big enough that there's officers available, right? And maybe a little altruistic, but that's the goal, right? Like we're all
goal.
going to win in the
Right.
end in doing that. Not
Yeah.
that we should bear the cost of training the entire Massachusetts police force, but or contributing, right? So I think if we can, we
Yeah.
should.
Yeah.
That's just my general directional feeling about it.
And if it doesn't work, 2 years, I'll come back here and say, sorry, guys, it didn't work. Well, won't be probably you guys.
Yes, it will.
Maybe it won't be me.
That has some tenure.
Maybe it won't be
thing. I don't know
Brian.
what that's about, but
But I'm just saying,
No,
yeah,
I
I mean,
think-
I'm not saying that this is the end all.
Sure, sure.
But we got to try something different.
Yeah.
No, I agree, and, you know, I don't take my questions as.
I don't.
You know, I'm knocking the program, I'm not knocking anything.
I
just
don't.
I want it to work as bad as you do.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
I know you do.
I want to see us at full complement and with the ability to have more than one officer out there occasionally, especially on busy nights,
Yeah.
Saturdays
Yeah.
or holidays or what have you, because it makes it safer for the public.
Yes,
and
it
it
does.
makes it safer for the officer.
Yes, it does.
And that's what it's all about.
Yep.
You know, Bill, I would go so far as to say if we were to adopt something like this and move it forward and get somebody trained, you know, a year from now, or I'd say 2 years from now, we are hopefully in a position where we've trained somebody, we have put them on the road, and we've seen the department run with 7 officers, and then we're really asking for feedback. How's that working? Is that, you know, what's the progress report of that staffing look like?
Right.
What were you able to accomplish more above and beyond than what you were with 6? And what's the coverage to the town? What's the response time? The officer safety? All of that, you know. And does it justify keeping that as a new minimum? But we have to
it's just like a field of dreams, build it and they will come.
build it and they will come, yeah.
But it gives us a position.
It gives you a position to at least test it out and
Yeah.
try it. And I see what
show
you're
its
saying. I mean,
value, right?
clearly, I mean, you could, if you looked at, you know, a 4-day rotation, you could be looking at, you know, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I think we would be somewhere about 9 staff members to
For
get.
us to do, yeah.
I think it's 9 is the number you'd be looking at, you know. So, but that doesn't mean that in 10 years' time we're not there. You don't get there from 6 to 9
Right.
in one fiscal year. It
No.
just doesn't happen.
No.
No, and the department's grown tremendously since I've been here in 2011. I mean, the town's been very supportive. Yeah, I mean, you all have been very supportive.
So.
The department is growing, but I think that this is our next move before we just say, yeah, let's hire 9. I think that let's try this.
Yeah, no, I'd like to, yeah. Well, this gets us to, I like this because it gives us a methodology, an avenue to hire somebody that has never
Never,
worked,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
before.
I mean, somebody gave me a shot. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
There was a path. I feel like there's not as much of a path
Right.
for people anymore that are interested. So
Correct.
how do we open that up? Hey, we've got more, and not that I want to short this, but
No, I was just going to
think-
say, I would like to read the entire, you know, policy and procedure a little bit further before I make any sort of recommendation.
You all typically carry these for 3 reads.
Right.
Your other policy reviews.
Yeah,
I'm already drafting your agenda for the next meeting. and
It's
I'm
on there
gonna
for a
put it on
second
as
read. Perfect.
Is that reasonable to anticipate?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's 2 other policies that Chief has already drafted for your review. One on the co-response program that's up and running, but to finalize that, and then your new mounted electric bike
Yep.
control policy. So if you all are okay with that, we'll put that on for your read next week.
For first, yep.
And I think, I'll talk,
Yep.
afterwards.
And and you know, availability. You don't necessarily have to be here for the next read, so we can always come back
I'd
the one
love
after.
coming to these.
I know we love having you, but you don't have to. We can always take some feedback and send it your way for a following meeting too. So, continuing on, discussion regarding the regional efficiency community compact application. Please, sir.
Can we pass over that?
We
Come
can.
back on the 17th.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Discussion regarding animal control officer, inspector of animals appointment. See, I just wanted to get to that one, and I knew it.
Yes.
So hopefully my brief explanation explained the situation that we're in. So we have an extended leave situation with the employee that was providing both services. I know we always think of them as the same service. They are not. So in the individual stead, the police department staff has taken on the animal control duties and has been responding to calls related to animal control. The inspector of animal duties have not been performed yet, and that's of concern. Both are of concern. So in your packets, there was a proposal that Chief obtained from the Sheriff's Office, which does offer a regional service that could help us sort of bridge the gap before we have a long-term solution for this position and the leave that we're under right now. I don't know if that makes sense, and Chief can speak more to what him and his staff has experienced covering for that service, and then I can address the Inspector of Animals piece.
So, yep, we've responded to dog bites, barking dog complaints, dogs not on leashes. Typically, those calls would be directed to, our ACO, who's, obviously we know the situation there. So we are doing that. Just the other day, I transported a dog. Somebody found a dog. Why they found it in Orange and decided to bring it to Erving, I don't know. I really wanted to tell them to go back west or east and drop it back off because you stole the dog. But I mean, we are dealing with it. It's not a tremendous amount of calls that we are dealing with, but we are getting the calls. Transporting them to the shelter. We're using the shelter. I don't have the knowledge. Maybe I have the resources. I don't have the knowledge to do animal inspections and barns inspections and who I'm supposed to report to when I have a dog bite. We had a dog bite down on East Main Street, a decent dog bite. I mean, it was pretty horrific, and I did a report. I did the investigation. I can do that, but I didn't know I had to send it to the state, and that is getting overlooked. The problem with, and maybe it's my ignorance too, and I haven't had extensive conversation with the Franklin County Animal Control. They don't do that anyways. They don't provide that service for us anyway. So I think I gave you, it was $7,000 or something for the year. I apologize. I did not bring that one. There was $5,000. That's the remainder of this year, but it's $7,000 moving forward or of some. But that doesn't address the barn inspections. That doesn't address the reports that got to go to the state. So that still has to get done.
And so I think that's why we want to bring this matter to your attention, and I want to talk about teasing the two roles back out. They are two distinct roles, and so the ACO was much more of a law enforcement, police department typical function, and to the bite issue, there is reporting that gets done on each bite in case their quarantine procedures have to be followed, and God forbid there was a rabies situation, we want to be able to report on that accurately. For the Inspector of Animals piece, that's more of a Department of Agriculture and a Board of Health matter. And so we can, in the short term, tease these two things back out. If our employee is able to come back from leave and perform the duties again, great, we're back in business. Or for some reason, if that doesn't work out, we want to be able to have a long-term conversation with the three of you about how do we do both services going forward. To the Chief's point, there's more reporting and more training probably involved with the Inspector of Animals piece that we don't currently have the capacity for. And so I think what I would ask the three of you, if Chief's still okay doing the ACO portion for now, in the short term, I just need somebody to be identified as the Inspector of Animals and to at least start engaging with the Department of Agriculture to get us back up to speed. And we can revisit this in 2 weeks, and we can revisit in 4 weeks, and we can keep revisiting this until we get the right mix. But I just want to get us current with the Department of Agriculture and get us going. And so in the short term, I would ask that you just appoint me or somebody like that to just get us going, and then we can keep checking in and reporting back about this.
And I told Brian I could do it too. So
We're going to learn together until we get this back on track.
I'm sure it's something, I'm sure Brian could handle it. I'm sure I can handle it. I just
just
need
have
to
to
know
train.
what it is.
And we need to be able to engage with the people who make that happen. We also don't have many farms in town, so we're not talking about a large amount of work that needs to be done. For the few that we have a role to complete. So
I'm just going to go on record that I don't like either one of you as that role.
I know you don't.
Just because that isn't.
agreed.
I don't think that makes sense. Not because you can't do it. I'm sure you both could do it.
It's clear that
It's
that
not
wasn't a permanent
bandwidth.
request, correct?
Even today, I don't agree with that as something that should be part of the bandwidth that you already don't have.
Agreed.
And can I just address one
but-
more slight issue?
One second.
Okay.
personally feel we should do something similar to what we've offered to our neighbors when we've had the right people. Find someone that can do it for us for at least a short period of time and pay for it. I'm just going to start there and I'll stop there and you go ahead.
I agree.
The next piece to that whole thing is I don't have a problem dealing with a dog. I mean, that's pretty simple and understandable. But we do get the calls for raccoons or bats, and I'm like, I'm not. I
You haven't
don't-
had the training. Yeah.
Nor do
No.
I have the training for an aggressive dog.
Right.
You know, so I mean, there are a lot of.
In both scenarios, we're not looking for a Band-Aid to get us through for more months, years. We're talking about, like, can we just get through the next month and work on this long-term solution, whether we're hiring for a new position or whether you're contracting out with another service provider.
Yeah, so I would tend to agree with Chairman on this. Is we've done this with water inspections. We didn't have anybody. We found somebody that can do it from the outside. We contracted with them. They get a stipend. They get per call, per hours worked, whatever. There are people out there that are trained to do this in neighboring communities. If we could just reach out to them and say, should we get calls, can you cover our town while we deal with a short-term absence? I would much prefer. Now, if you want to, on your own, look at additional training and cross-training, as the chief and understanding what the ACO role and the inspector of animals is doing.
I think we're all on the same point. I think the only problem is you all meet every 2 weeks, and we need to do something tomorrow and then come back to you in 2 weeks. What are we
I
doing
don't
in the next
have
2
anybody for tomorrow, and I'm not. Here's my issue with it.
Right.
If I'm being frank, signing either one of you up for it, you don't have the training or experience to
Agreed.
be it anyway. So putting your name on there is no different than waiting 2 weeks or a month because it doesn't exist. So your name
Yes,
is
but-
no better than no name right now. No offense. I mean, I don't mean any disrespect to either one of you, but that's the fact. A 15-page list published by the state 3 months ago of every animal inspector that is. There's lots of them in our neighboring towns. Let's call one, find out who can do it, find out what
Tomorrow.
they would cost, and
So we're authorized to go do that.
I would rather authorize that than, yeah.
Okay.
I would rather
Yes.
authorize that.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine,
Yeah.
as long as we have the authorization to go do it.
and let's put a number on it. We have a budget already for an ACO. Let's put a number on it. We're not paying that today. That to whatever extent within this much for a short-term contract, preferably by number of need, by visits, calls, whatever, right? I understand for the ACO part, for the animal control part right now, if you're comfortable, you have the bandwidth for a very short time that we continue as is, fine, but we do need to work on a longer term, interim and or permanent if the individual can't return. But yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely, I know there's a question in the audience or a comment.
What are the neighboring towns doing for an ACO that Erving was helping out with?
Berniston.
What were they doing or,
What are they doing now
oh,
that Erving was helping with?
They've gone with the sheriff's department
have they?
For animal control.
for animal control. Again, that doesn't service the.
Animal inspector that,
Animal.
as Brian mentioned, the two different
That's the
roles. We had
real
one person, but
issues.
two roles.
Yeah, the animal control is the easy piece. We have a local agency that we can call and contract with.
So would you suggest that we contract with the sheriff's department for ACO work as well, or?
And just because they put it in there's a 3-year doesn't obviously mean you have to do a 3-year agreement. We could just do year one.
I would ultimately want to see you out of that business and doing what you're supposed to be doing, which is law enforcement and protection.
We
Public
don't
safety.
mind the barking dog
No, I
complaints and stuff
understand
like
that.
that, but
I
raccoons.
understand that, right, yeah.
I don't know. We
But,
had 3 baby raccoons. A lady stopped and said, "I have 3 baby raccoons." I'm like, "Yep, you sure do."
I
I'd be very interested in that.
have no problem.
You're the comedian tonight, too.
Approaching the
Well, no, but
sheriff's
I-
department
yeah.
for a year.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not an expert, but those are raccoons. We got them safely
if
to a
that's what we're
place,
doing-
just so everybody knows. They are safely off to
So
wherever
if that's what we're
raccoons
saying.
go.
You can put my name on it. Yeah,
Right.
that's a skunk. I'm
Right, if we're just talking about naming, that's fine. I would make the recommendation that we contract with, for animal control services with the Franklin County Sheriff's Office for regional animal control services, but I would amend that for a one-year contract.
Yeah.
One
And then-
year or the balance of the fiscal year?
If they're open to the balance of this fiscal
They
year,
are.
June 30th, 2020.
June, yeah,
Okay.
through June 30th, 2023, and we could do an effective date of, whatever you need to have them sign it,
Did I miss a fee somewhere in here?
5,000 and some change,
Right.
Chairman.
But that's for the
Okay,
full
thank you.
year, correct?
No, that's for the
us
remainder
the
of this.
That's
The
for the remainder.
7,000 is for the full year.
Okay.
But that also goes up and down,
Right.
depending on a lot of things that I don't know. but-
How does that compare to budget? I guess I could ask that question. even though I don't
So
want-
I have sitting in the ACO budget,
Okay. More than five
6,700,
something.
6,400,
So you've
6,800.
got a small surplus to then utilize that for any inspection calls that we may get for the remainder of this year. A small window,
Small,
1,000, 1,500, somewhere in that ballpark.
small.
Yep. And I don't
think
know,
we- I think
I have
we-
no idea what the fees are for a animal inspection call.
But let me not detract from that. It sounded like you were making a motion.
Scott made a motion.
Make a motion that we contract with the Franklin County Sheriff's Office for regional animal control services effective, what date do you want for an effective date? You want today or tomorrow
Do
or?
tomorrow, October 4th.
October 4th, 2022 through June 30th, 2023 for the amount of, in the amount of $5,000.
Somebody authorized us on that.
Or thereabouts.
Yeah, and authorize Town Administrator Brian Smith to sign all required documents, contracts.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So the animal control service piece is done. That's taken care of for the rest of the year.
Animal inspector, on a separate note. I agree with you. I have no idea what it'll be.
I have no idea what they cost.
I don't think 1,000 is the right amount to authorize for them to.
No, I'm not
Brian
saying that.
and/or
I'm just
Chief
saying that
to
there is
Kind
something
of run with
there.
it and get something in the interim.
Yeah,
I don't know where we find the rest of the funding, but I think I'm leaning towards maybe we just start with up to $3,000 to get what we need for minimum services for the next, few months even if it's not
That's
for
what I
the
was
whole
gonna
fiscal
say.
year, just to get through. We need a name on a form. We need to start the inspection process because it's due.
yeah.
And we can mitigate what that looks like for the last 6 months of the fiscal year or beyond or whatever that is from there. But this gets us to start and allows them to do what they need to do. I mean,
That's fine.
Fine.
I don't know where you find the rest of it, but we'll find the rest of it.
I'll take care of it.
So
So who's authorized?
I'll make a motion to authorize Town Administrator Brian Smith and/or his designees
I did point it.
to procure contract animal inspection services, hopefully from some regional inspector in the region, for amount not to exceed $3,000 for necessary inspections at a minimum for the next 90 days.
Second.
Sufficient?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Discussion regarding applying for public safety grant for digital fingerprint scanning.
So
Kind of says it all, but I don't know.
it's complicated, to be honest with you. I'm trying to catch up to speed. I learned about this several months ago, and then the issue rearose at the chief's training this past week in Norwood. EOPS is working with other agencies to be in compliance with the new criminal justice reform law, where they're trying to try to keep it simple. Basically, they want to make sure that those people we arrest are 100% identified as being those people. And they want to move to a single number to identify people. And part of that process is to get this digital live scan fingerprint machine, which will give us our number, which will coincide with our current CGIS. We print them and we get feedback within 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I'm sure that it's a machine, so I'm sure it breaks at times. But as opposed to right now, we do the fingerprint cards, which I print them, then maybe they sit in our mailbox for a week or so, and then they get mailed out. And then, 3 weeks later, we say, oh, that wasn't that person, or, oh, that person was wanted out of Texas, or something of that nature. So this would put us in compliance with police reform. And my understanding is EOPS is going to either be putting out a process to apply for the grant, so it will be free funding, one of those mandates that is funded. But I just want you guys to understand that I'm looking at this and to just give me permission now, as opposed to having to come back in another 2 weeks and ask, or a month and ask. If the grant becomes available, do you guys authorize me to go ahead and fill out the grant, apply for the grant, and hopefully we get the machine? Worst case scenario, we're using a regionalization machine, which I think it's great, but now we're taking our officer and maybe they're having to go to Montague just for fingerprint purposes or booking purposes, taking them out of the town. I don't like that idea, so I want to try to get our own machine.
Chief, do you know what the cost to this machine
Oh,
is?
they're expensive.
They're very expensive. You want the grant.
I want to say,
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't know, Bill,
absolutely,
maybe
yeah.
12 grand.
Yeah.
And if there's a grant that they're going to give them to us, I know departments have already started receiving them. Deerfield Police has one,
Okay.
Orange has one, Greenfield has two,
The sheriff's office has one.
Sheriff's Office has
They've been
one.
doing it for 10 years now, I think.
Yeah, the machines have been around for quite a
Yeah.
while. I actually used one in Gardner when I was in Gardner.
Yeah,
They
they've been
had
around
one,
for
so-
quite a while. Not that hard to utilize.
Nope. So I guess I'm just asking you guys to know that I would like to try to apply for one of these machines when the grant
Sooner
comes.
the better, it sounds like.
So I've already reached out to EOPS, and I said, hey, I was at the chief's meeting. I want one of these machines. I can't find the grant to fill out. And they're like, yeah, we're just taking names and numbers right now. I'm like, here we go. We're going to get pushed
Yeah.
to the side.
Yeah.
I'd rather be proactive and instead of waiting and then be like, oh, you should have applied a month ago and not know.
Right.
I mean, we still may not get one in the end, but
I would encourage you to apply for a grant,
Yes.
should one come available for that.
Agreed.
Second.
All in favor?
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if there's a match needed, bring it back to us. Let's
I
get it
don't
on.
believe there is right now.
capital. Well, we don't know, but I'm just saying.
Yep.
Should something
Continue
change. yeah.
to be, go down the road and then bring it back. Maybe it goes, at that point goes to capital based on that, probably 10 grand range if there's a match needed. But
Perfect.
it's compliant. It makes sense.
Yep.
I think that's it.
We got one more.
Oh,
Review of the police cruiser procurement.
So in your packets, you had a quick update as to where Chief is with this process, and a quote for a vehicle from MHQ on the Plymouth County contract. That by sheer luck, another community ordered and is no longer going to complete their order. And so it's currently being held for the town of Erving in case we're ready to proceed.
we hired Billy Kimball at the right time.
Loves vehicles, huh?
Someone connected, right?
So the quote for what the vehicle has and potential upfit on it, which I think still could be tweaked a little bit, is in your packet. It's about $68,000 was the total. The insurance company has not finished the claim approval yet, but verbally I've spoken to the appraiser and our adjuster. It's looking like we're somewhere around the $62,000 mark. The difference is the vehicle that was totaled is a Charger. We're not replacing it with a Charger. We'd be replacing it with a Ford Utility. So obviously that comes at a different cost and a different price point. The other difference the reason we have to make up part of the difference, we're replacing a fully gasoline-driven vehicle and seeking a hybrid because we've been replacing the police department vehicles with hybrids over the last few years. So there is a slight cost discrepancy, but I don't think it's a cost discrepancy that we can't identify the funding for. Especially knowing that our other order was canceled and they won't even take new orders until after January for 2024. So we could be out a vehicle for about a year and a half.
And at this point, this is ours if we want it.
This is yours if
This
you
is
want
ours
it.
if we want.
As soon as I get the insurance company to confirm that dollar amount around $62,000.
Right,
that
so
we told
we'd be
us
about 6,000.
So we're
Sure.
paying for the hybrid upfit, basically. if you
Yeah,
will.
for the 6,
Or
for the
upgrade.
6,000, yeah.
Right.
And we have it, we think we have it within our existing cruiser funds.
No,
Yeah,
mine.
that's what I was going to say.
No, we're out on the existing funds. There may be just a couple $100 left. There's not much left because of the purchase that had been planned and the outfit that had to come with that
And all the transitions, yep.
and all the
Okay.
transitions.
So,
Well, the original was 57.
This came in at like 54 or
This
something.
came in at 53, but there's the radio issue.
Right.
So there is a little there,
so
but
the-
it's not the 6.
We're not there yet, but it's not the full amount. So, but we would have to move a little money around at the end of the year. But I'm not concerned about not being able to find.
at this
$3,000 or
point, we
$4,000.
think we have it somewhere in the budget.
Somewhere.
Yes,
Okay.
to save you from waiting a year and a half.
Well, yeah, I don't,
Yeah,
A year and a half to even
to order it.
maybe get one.
Yeah.
You're still building
Yeah.
it and still delivering it.
Right.
and this would be the one we potentially tweak to have a canine
Yep.
cage as opposed to a standard cage.
Correct.
But this quote does not have the canine.
Correct.
No,
So we
but
have to alternate
materially,
each.
it's
Yeah.
similar in cost, and I'm assuming that's all upfitting being done after. It's not coming out of the factory with that.
Correct.
So we have time for that.
Correct.
Right.
So
I
your
don't wa-
question is,
I don't want to see us
go
wait
or
for,
no
I don't
go?
want to see us wait for a year and a half to replace
don't
the
either.
cruiser.
I don't either.
You know, so if it's a motion to move forward on the purchase, that would be the motion I would make.
Just to be clear though, too, this is an all gray. This isn't.
Yeah, I think you had talked about that being a
so it's
potential
similar
based
to
on
the one that we
availability.
just are switching over now.
Yep.
Yep.
Even though it says,
won't be the
it says
two-tone.
it's black in the description. Unless I'm reading that wrong, line 2, agate black? Or is that actually a dark, dark gray?
Line 2?
Of the MHQ code?
I don't know, I'd have to ask, because I was told it's a gray.
Yeah, I don't think is that materially concerning? We have 2
Nope.
black and we'll have 2
No.
gray.
No.
I think we just put the markings on it. I think it looks actually pretty sharp with the
Does
solid
it
gray
look
with the markings. Yeah, I put the
Nice.
with Josh Barber put them on.
Nice.
Yeah.
If the three of you wanted to proceed, I could use an authorization to order from MHQ in that amount not to exceed, and probably make that conditional on receiving the coverage claim amount, whatever. I at a loss for words right now, from the insurance settlement.
Yeah, the 62,
Right.
the
'Cause that's the
payout.
revenue for it.
Yeah.
You wanted that motion?
So
That
moved.
motion.
So moved?
Usually,
It's getting late. So moved.
Suggested language, but that was not the best.
Yeah, I think it was suggested fine.
Yeah. Make a motion that we purchase the so proposed 2023 Ford Interceptor utility hybrid from MHQ, utilizing insurance funds for the majority of the purchase. Authorize Brian Smith, town administrator, to execute all necessary agreements.
Second. Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We'll get that done tomorrow.
Am I done?
Go home.
Do you want to stay?
You're done.
You are done. Thank you,
I'll
sir.
see you in 2 weeks. I'll have more.
All right, with that, I'll make a motion.
Appreciate your support.
You're hoping.
Thank you, Chief. Make a motion that we take recess at 8:50 and resume at 9 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. resume the select board meeting at 9:04 PM. We're gonna go to review of paving contract change orders. Glenn, come on up. One of these days I'll put them in order that I expect we're gonna review them, but not today.
So today I sent over, we're looking to process 2 change orders related to 2 separate paving contracts that we currently have.
So first one is change order for project 220824 Mountain Road and Cemetery Bitumen, Minis? Thank you. Yeah, patch and curb project contract. That B word. Anyway,
I think he puts that in there just for the fun of it.
I do enjoy it.
someday I'm gonna get like, pronounce this for me so I can remember it. Johnson Asphalt Paving LLC change order number 1, amount of $3,610 for patching the asphalt section for the culvert repair, the emergency one, right, up on
Yes.
Mountain Road from last Monday,
Yep,
week ago or so.
yep, started last Monday.
It's done.
It's done.
Okay. And the second change order is for the same project number.
Oh,
And it shouldn't be.
I apologize.
Yeah, I was gonna say different.
So for the Poplar Mountain Conservation Area Parking
Yep.
Lot Project contract,
Correct.
Correct.
The number should have been changed.
different number.
Yep.
Change order number 1 for that contract, amount of $6,350 for an 8-inch asphalt berm, site grade, binder asphalt, and a 1-inch top coat for restoration of the fire lane at Riverfront Park, which is
From the Aqualine Forest Sewer Main Project.
right, and that would be the source. And the first one, you were sourcing that not from the project, but from highway repair,
Correct.
highway road repair, just to be clear.
Yes.
Any questions, concerns on either one?
No.
And that Arch Street one is completed also.
Okay. Is Mountain Road the actual project done too?
Yes.
I have
And Poplar
pictures to
Mountain's
send
in
out to
progress?
everybody.
That's in progress, and we may have another small change order with that. Contractor reached out to me today. I know. Contractor reached out to me today, and they ran into ledge on the approach off from Old State Road when he went to try to prep to put the culvert in. They ran into a ledge, so they're gonna have to put a jackhammer on the machine and start chipping away. I believe he started that this afternoon. He asked me at 1:30, he sent me pictures, said, "What would you like me to do? I can wait till you come back tomorrow." Says, "No, proceed, and we'll work it out in the end."
Bring it down to ledge, it won't wash away.
Correct?
Sorry, bad joke. I guess I'll make a motion that we approve change order number 1 for project 20220824 Mountain Road and Cemetery asphalt patch and curb project contract in the amount of $3,610 to Johnson Asphalt Paving, sourced from Highway Road Repair, and also change order number 1
Do you want the right contract number?
for project 202209
0629A.
0629A, Poplar Mountain Conservation Area Parking Lot Project. The amount of $6,350, Johnson Asphalt Paving, sourced from Arch Street Forest Sewer Main Replacement Project.
Second.
Sec,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Get
you.
those processed tomorrow.
Excellent. Review of the proposed revised description?
It was starting as a revised, but then it became a proposed.
Review of the proposed job description for senior custodian and promotion recommendation. Start there.
So in 2017, by 2017, we've been through 2 part-time custodian staff that work nights, work days, alternating schedules to try to maintain town buildings. So at that point, it was not working out. So we brought it to the board's attention to hire a full-time custodian. The job description that we had used when we hired Rebecca, oh, I thought you wanted me to stop.
Okay. I'm nodding in a, I
Oh,
agree.
I thought you put your hand up, sorry.
Oh, no, that's a different look.
Okay. True. So the job description that we had for her was very minimal because it was a new position, full-time. From the get-go, Rebecca has gone above and beyond the original job description. And then we've worked our way up to a pandemic, and still maintained her above and beyond status and her work ethic. So I've talked to Brian about this a few times now and for a while. She has taken on a lot of the OSHA stuff for the MSDS sheets, taken on many more tasks. And I think that we need to make a change in her job description and salary to recognize what she is doing. So between the three of us, and we had Rebecca's input on the essential duties also to what she's been doing from what her original job description was. So those are added in here also.
Just a question, from where we started in 2017 to now, did we modify the job description during the grade and step process? Or was it the
I don't
same
believe that
essential
was.
functions
Kept the
that
same-
we graded?
Put it on the grade and step
Right.
schedule, but we
But the
didn't
job
modify
didn't, the description didn't change at that time? It was the same one?
If I'm being honest, I think a lot of people's job descriptions changed once the pandemic came, just not on paper.
I have no issues or concerns with the revised job description. I think it's fitting, and she's a excellent worker.
Absolutely.
And I agree, she goes above and beyond, always has from day one. She doesn't complain.
No, she
She just
doesn't.
does her job
Yeah.
and does it in a friendly and cheerful manner.
I know we should all learn from her. Not you all,
Yeah.
because you're as friendly as all could be.
So how does this job description reflect in salary?
So I believe that she should be moved up a grade, and I'm gonna swing for the fences here. So right now, she is a B step 6.
Oh, thought you were step 5.
Can you double check?
No, I think it's 6.
Got everybody's pay right here. According to FY23, it's B5. But anyhow,
How did you come with a 6?
From the numbers that I was given to change at fiscal year for her payroll.
and they come off of the spreadsheet I'm looking here. So, but
Either
I don't know what the difference
Either
is.
way,
Okay.
what would be your end
Either way,
request?
and talking with Brian, we believe this needs to be moved to the grade C. And I know that typically when somebody is hired, they are hired into 1 to 3 steps in it. The last 2 hires were way above the 1 to 3 range because of their experience and what they were bringing to the town. So if we were staying into the step 1 to 3 area, I would strongly recommend at least a step 3 in the grade C.
What is that figure?
$20.64.
That might be the disconnect. That's why we're FY '23 we're looking at, right? Step 3 is 2105. You might have an,
Wait, what?
grade C, step 3,
Oh, yeah,
2105.
2105, yeah.
You are looking at
Last year's.
FY '22.
Somebody ought to put
Do you
that
want-
on there for me.
Want me to print the other copy for you?
That's what
That
the,
still
that's,
doesn't make sense with the 6 because it would have been 4,
yeah.
but still. Either way.
No.
Oh,
Makes perfect sense.
No, it makes perfect sense. You're right because
Yeah.
the wage is a 6, but
makes
now it's
sense.
only a 5, right?
Now it's
or
only
vice
5.
versa.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, I get
Yep.
it. I get it. He was backing into the step from the wage.
That's exactly
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. So we are at 5,
It
1905.
comes from one spreadsheet, and I'm staring at the
I feel
spreadsheet.
like it doesn't
Currently at
lie.
5,
Yeah, okay.
B5, 1905.
Okay, thank you.
And his recommendation was a C3 at 2105.
Right.
Given that typically we go between 1 and 3.
So it still doesn't change my recommendation for a grade C, at least minimum step 3. She will, be doing her own ordering, her own inventory control for all the town buildings, the MSDS sheets for all the town buildings and the chemicals, which is very time consuming. And she has the knowledge to do it. She's been doing it. And actually, when we had our OSHA inspection, the gentleman that did the inspections was very happy with the booklets in all the town buildings, that everything was up to date. He actually even checked a few chemicals to see if they were in the book.
So you're right, work we long ago did away with the book and it's all online because that's a nightmare. I know how much that is.
So.
Keeping no track of those.
So, and that is another thing that I believe that she's gonna work with Brian to put all that in the shared files stuff on the OneDrive,
Move it to a library.
Right.
correct?
I'm just going back over the proposed job description to make sure that it captures all of what you want, the current position that she's doing, that it reclaims all, speaks to all of that, but also, is there anything else that you think the position at that new grade of C should be in there that's not currently on the plate, or do you think that statement of duties is sufficient? Currently, her, and I don't have it in front of me, but her statement of duties currently is just the custodial grounds and grounds cleaned up, light maintenance. It's basically the one line, correct? I mean, there's other wording in there, but it's very basic about
Correct.
what the roles are. Okay. Under supervisory responsibility, I was wondering if in the future, if we ever have, because we still have a custodian position on the books, even though there won't be one in that position, we would have somebody promoted to a senior custodian. Should there be some sort of supervisory responsibility for this role of the general custodian?
I think it could be as to, like a foreman type
Yeah,
position, still overseen by,
still
the
overseen by,
superintendent.
the ultimate responsibility of the oversight comes from you. But there could be some, day-to-day operational supervision of this role.
I think there could be in the future, yes.
So I'm just wondering, just thinking about adding that into that supervisory responsibility. I'm not saying we need it this evening. 'Cause we don't,
And if we did that, that would likely change how I would grade it. So usually at the grade C,
there's
those
no
individuals are
responsibility.
managing
It's
It would
D
go
and,
to
D
D.
and above.
D and above is typically where
Okay.
assistants start managing or having other duties.
Okay.
So C is,
Well, that's what I was wondering. So if C is appropriate for not
For
having any
non-supervisory,
managerial or
yep.
non-supervisory, then leave that as is. Okay. I don't have any concerns with it. I've asked around over, and have never had anybody have anything negative to say. Only positive, glowing recommendations.
Yeah, she's
and
one
the
of those
quality of work.
employees that if she is not here for vacation or sick reasons, it's always could tell, but it was in a good way.
Yeah.
Could tell that she was not in
Yeah.
and asked when she's coming back.
often.
The only one that I was thinking of and looking at this is just overall like the standard practices or policies on custodial work in the town. And did I miss that in there? Is that captured? Is she doing that kind of definition
She,
setting?
she is doing that. She's created
Because
that.
there are other buildings that have custodial work being done in them to the standards that she's set. Is that
Right.
an accurate statement?
That's very accurate.
So
You're right, this
it
probably
just-
doesn't fully capture
it
that.
just doesn't, maybe like
Okay.
defines, what am I thinking of there? Let's see. I mean, it's probably coordinates and advises on, custodial standards and processes for all town buildings or something of that, scope is what I'm thinking of as we're talking
Understatement of
about it.
duties.
Yeah,
Yeah.
under like a specific thing, because it's not management and supervision, but it is definition of the standards and kind of, similar to what you said about, the MSDS, there's a
Yeah,
level
she's
of
definitely raised the
specific work.
standards.
But not just for the buildings that she regularly is
Correct.
responsible for
Yep.
all buildings, right?
Yep.
And
So
if you all
that's what I'm
recall-
defining, like trying to define.
Yeah.
When we made this position, there was a teasing out of the building maintenance position that had been supporting each town building. We later hired Thomas for that position. You had hired this full-time custodial position for the first time, and the goal was that there was more of a team approach to the 7 buildings under their charge. We now have the addition of now David here at this position taking care of both of these buildings. So it really is sort of a 3-person team, and there's potential and more opportunities to do more of that overlapping. So we're actually building out building maintenance, building and ground care as a division of public works that didn't really exist 5 years ago. And these positions are key for that because the standard that Glenn was describing in 2017 was a pretty low standard. We were just trying to get operational, and each individual has brought their own skill set, knowledge, and experience to the roles, and it has increased the standard, and we're trying to capture that new standard and work it in and update everything accordingly.
I guess that's the question I posed, and then if that's accurate, should we add an additional essential function that kind of talks to that, which is, are we modeling it after the example that the current employee set? Are you, per se?
Yes.
Or has she set it and defined that?
Actually, I think she has said it and defined it. We supported, what
And then
she has
have
done.
deployed it, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
so,
But it should be codified in some way so that it becomes a standard. So it's not tied to the person who, if they were ever to leave, then the standard goes away again. We want to stay where we are.
so maybe that's a
Correct.
2-part question. Is it defined on paper or in a document, the
No.
standards that we
No.
clean
Not
to
yet.
today? And if not,
Should be.
should that be a responsibility of this role
Number
to
12.
define them and keep them updated to, anything that comes in. I mean, we think of COVID, and unfortunately the pandemic was just is a great example of those standards changed. And they've probably changed forever, not to what they were in
Correct.
the height of it, but to some level, they are not what they were in 2019, and probably never will be again. So,
I can add that as an essential function.
yeah, I mean, does that make sense?
No, I absolutely agree. I think it's the right thing to do. And if you're looking at in the future, a supervisory position, she moves to that next level, you have to have something there to show
An intermediate
progression.
sort of step.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
and this would be somebody who is crafting basically the procedure
Yeah.
for expectations in all town buildings, and having her have that responsibility of having this position have that responsibility of reducing that to writing and creating the procedure of what to do in each building and how to maintain that high standard. It's a good catch.
Yeah, I just think, it's going to obviously in collaboration with, or, under the supervision of
Yep.
the, the superintendent, but doing the body of work. Right? The current employee is the example of the body of work
Right.
that
Yeah,
we
no,
want
we
to
can add that.
define and has set the standard for all buildings. So let's make sure that,
Okay. We can get that in there.
persists beyond the current employee.
And I think you said essential functions, but I would also put a one-liner in job description.
Under job description.
Yeah, in the statement of duties. I think it makes sense to put it in, not only number it as 12 or renumber however you want in there, but adding a quick one line about,
Yeah, I think it's probably 10 or 11, because 10 is coordinates the supply, inventory, maintenance, and to me, it's defines, maintains the standards, right? It goes along with, I kept the inventory and I maintained what the standard work looks like, right?
I'll make that
But
change.
yeah, I agree.
So when are you looking for this to take effect?
As soon as you three will agree to it.
Is there any specific date, Brian?
I don't think that there is a specific date that is necessary. I don't know that it had to be tomorrow, or if it could be today, or it really is up to the three of you. But I think
Okay.
if you're happy with the description, I think the two of us are ready to implement, and we have an eager employee who would be appreciative.
So I don't see any reason why we can't move ahead with the raise while making the modification to the section.
Yeah, you could approve it as amended,
Yeah.
and I could finalize adding that language in there for you.
Your budget can sufficiently bear that currently?
I'm sure it'll have to get fixed at the end of the year.
Don't be sure. We'll have less snow. No.
I will work with.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
To manage that budget.
No, it's him. He's in charge of the snow.
Yeah, we'll just take out the snow, then we'll be fine. Stop the snow, cancel the winter.
Again, I will hold you to that. Bill, is that a motion?
Yes, I don't recall Rebecca's last name.
Walsh.
Well,
Walt.
can I slow us all
Yeah.
down?
It's the
The
creation
first
of.
part is to approve the job description.
Yeah, so I'll do that part of it if you'd like. I'll make a motion that we approve the job description of senior custodian
As amended.
as amended and presented on 10/3/2022.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So now we have a position that we could appoint her to.
Yes, thank you.
And I'll make a motion to make a motion to set the rate of pay at, what is it, grade C, step 3,
Correct.
Okay.
At 2105.
2105, effective, today is the,
I would do it tomorrow.
If you
Yeah, I
wanna
was gonna do it
If you
tomorrow.
want to do a pay cycle, it's the 10th,
Yeah.
or backward, it's.
okay.
Yeah,
Well,
so
that's what I
whatever
was trying to
Monday-
get at with
Yeah, it's
Brian.
Monday the
Today is
10th.
Monday the 10th.
Well, today's
So
Monday.
No, the
effective,
pay cycle though is,
I can spoil
I know you
I
don't
can spoil
care.
the payroll.
Okay, if you want it to be today, make it today. It
Make
doesn't
it
matter.
today.
Let's do it today.
it can
Well,
be
we're amenable to that.
today or tomorrow.
It can be today.
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 That way you're not splitting a
Effective
week.
October 3rd, 2023.
And promote Rebecca Walsh to that position.
And appoint Rebecca Walsh to that position. Thank you. I'm sorry.
You got everything you need?
Yep.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. I'm sure she will also.
Well,
Thank her for all the hard
I
work.
was going to say, we appreciate the hard work.
Daily, I do.
Good. Well, from us as well, even.
Absolutely.
I think that was all we had on here for you tonight,
I think so.
Yep.
correct? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Sorry you spent your last day off here.
Oh, what?
Yeah, it was his day off today.
I thought that was, no, I thought it was last week.
He's been on vacation, had some time off.
I would have taken you off the agenda if I knew that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like our own people? Oh, okay.
I don't know if I wanted to hear that. Anyway, next topic, review of position description for town planner and promotion recommendation.
So hopefully my memorandum explains my thought process for the recommendation. If you recall, back in 2019, I think Scott was chair at the time, I pitched during the budget planning cycle that I thought the town was taking on more initiatives that required more dedicated administrative support towards those planning initiatives. We also had some support for the land use boards that we thought we needed to explore a little bit more. And so we, with your support, we created a position description that was looking at establishing an assistant role to give that administrative support. And I don't know, we certainly didn't know what would happen in the following 2 years, but I don't think anticipated how quickly lots of success would sort of be born from that process. And what additional capacity would be created from that. I think we were hopeful, but I don't know that we were this hopeful. And then tangent to all of that, I don't know that we anticipated that the expectation of service would then increase along with all of that. And so I know it's, and it's not to speak of somebody who's in the room without using the name, but I think it's pretty common to have a conversation with somebody who just says, go get a grant for that, because it appears so easy. Didn't Mariah just grab another
She made it look easy.
$200,000? What people don't maybe realize, and I'm sure they do if they sat and talked about it, but there's a lot of work that's going into all of this. And beyond just the grants and the projects, I think the relationships with our elected officials and delegations at the state level, our regional partners, our state colleagues at MassDOT, DCR, Mass Wildlife, Mass DEP, all of these relationships have grown in the last 2 years, and a lot of that is the interaction that I had not anticipated with this role. So we had sort of unofficially said that after about 2 years we would do a check-in and start looking at this position. Mariah and I started having that conversation a few months ago. And after she did her own review of different job descriptions and reflected on her work, I did my own reflection and looked at what other towns are doing. And I came to the realization that while we could continue to try to tweak and revise that position description, that's certainly a choice that you all can make. I would like to come to you and make a recommendation that I think this deserves a position description that's at the department head level, that bears a little more autonomy for me and gives a position that has some clear direction, certainly continues to be a collaborative position with all town departments and the boards and commissions that have been identified to work with this position, but maybe separates this position out from day-to-day having to check in with me on what they're working on. A little more autonomy. With that comes more responsibility, some budget planning, and some other presentations that typically I would have handled for the office. I think she's demonstrated that she can absolutely rise to this occasion. I also think we have to acknowledge that the market has evolved and our peers are adding these positions. So when 3 years ago we looked like the progressive small town looking at adding a position like this, our peers are catching up to us, and in some cases they're launching new positions this year that are similar to this description. So this move also looks at the market and is intended to keep us competitive for as long as Mariah stays with us. I think we're grateful, but the day that she decides that she wants her next opportunity, we want to make sure that we have a position that stays current with what our colleagues are working on.
Can we make, before we move on to the next part of the job description, can we make a change to the proposed town planner position and recommendation? And it's just a small change. In paragraph 2, third line, it reads, I believe Mariah has demonstrated an ability to meet most challenges. I would like to delete most and leave it at to meet challenges head on and to rise to the occasion.
You got it.
Thank you.
You got it.
Change that to any. Instead of meet. Instead of delete, I would say any, but either way.
Thank you.
Your memo has been modified.
I will take that from the amendment.
I've read this one other time, so I had the opportunity. Thank you, Brian, for doing that. And I really do enjoy the level that you bring to the table. I'll speak to you directly because you're in the room. I'm not going to do the third person thing and pretend you're not here. You're here, so I'm going to speak to you. But I do want to look at this role in two lights. One is you filling the role, but also is in the future with you not here and us looking to fill the role with somebody new coming in. Is this the right job description? And is this attainable?
Is this the right position?
Is this attainable to find somebody else to come in and fill this role? And you know, I don't know what town you're speaking of, but I believe Montague is dealing with, you know, they moved, I think Walter.
Montague added
an assistant.
administrative town administrator.
Yeah.
Walter, who held a similar position to this, elevated to that. So they are,
Right,
I'm
so
sure,
that-
in the hiring position.
Yeah, and so and this style, your role that you had filled is, I think you captured the roles, responsibilities, and the job duties that have been happening over the last couple of years. I think really are embedded in here neatly, and they're all in there. Having said that, I think if she were to ever leave, we may have to modify this again and look for the previous one to bring somebody new. And I don't know if you find that walking in the door. Typically, that's a rare find.
Well,
So-
and I think to your point, when we drafted the previous description, we were looking for a lower entry
Yeah.
bar because we weren't sure what the market would support and we weren't sure who would be interested in a position like this for a small town. So we did write that position from an expectation where we may have to set our expectations lower. This definitely is asking for the expectations to be higher. So to your point.
Yeah, but having said that, you used the term small town. I would beg to put our list of town planner responsibilities, active jobs that are happening, number of grants that are coming in. Can compare that to any town planner in Franklin County and find another one that is not
agree with you.
comparable for level of. We're a small town, but we do a lot.
Agreed.
Each and every year, there's a lot of projects happening. There's a lot of things going on. So yes, we're a small town, but we also have the ability to take on many, many big tasks. So I think that should, it speaks for itself why a town planner role makes more sense than a planning assistant. So I had already read it. I don't have a concern with it. I think in time, given the opportunity to grow, we generally lean towards growing and taking on more. In here under supervisory responsibility, it talks about interns, consultants, contractors, and vendors. There's still a planning assistant on there. I think that may have to be listed in there should we ever,
We can do that.
because it is, at that grade level, it's department head, it's grade F. So should we ever get to a point in a few years where there is another staff person needed, especially in this role of planning, it would make sense that it would fall under the planning department head. So I don't know if that would be worked in now, or if we would modify that in the future if the need arises.
I guess I'd ask Brian, I don't recall, we did not do away with the highway foreman position. We just don't have it occupied or
It's not filled yet.
filled.
Yep.
It's not in the staff plan in the budget today. But does the superintendent position define overseeing a foreman today? Even though the position's not
It
filled?
says something, I'm paraphrasing, something to the effect of oversees all of the staff of the
Yeah,
highway
so-
department.
So I think kind of that,
But this doesn't say,
Some-
this one is very specific about employee may provide direction and supervision to interns, consultants, contractors, and vendors. So it's very specific.
right. No,
And that's what I'm saying.
Well, I'm asking because just because it's not filled doesn't mean
Right.
it's not listed as a duty if we ever filled it.
Right, that's what I'm saying. We should
what
put it in
I'm- and
now
And I'm,
so that.
I'm saying
yeah.
I think that I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, I think
Short answer.
just adding that, adding that as one of the supervisory responsibilities. We may not have a need for that for years to come. But I know the way the town works is if there's an opportunity to take on more, we will.
And there is the occasion that some of these grants do come with an administrative component that allows you to compensate for that type of staff. So just because it's listed somewhere does not mean that that's a specific budgetary item that's coming specifically out of the operating budget. It
Right.
may be something that comes together from an initiative. It makes sense. It's presented, it's supported, and there's funding for it from an outside source.
Yep.
Yeah, so contractors, vendors, and/or employees. I mean, it's all
Right.
you.
Yeah.
It's
You can
and/or.
keep it general. It's any
Yeah, it's-
employees
it's-
under the title of,
If we
that would
ever-
fall under
in that
planning.
department, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. With that modification, I wouldn't have any concerns with the job description as planned.
Amended?
Yes. Did I say
I
amended?
said planned.
No, as, yes.
42.
Good with the planning as planned?
Good with the planning as planned, yes. It is almost 10.
Oh, I know. Hoping we check them by 10.
So as far as job description goes, I will make a motion to approve the position description of town planner, falling under grade F. And I'm going to say as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I almost amended you last time for grade C. For the last one, we didn't call the grade, but it was as it's on there, so
yeah.
I'm not gonna, I don't think it matters. Okay.
So the other part of the recommendation,
Just a comment to something you said earlier. So I agree with you in terms of trying to fill that role, but looking at it from the lens of filling it with an experienced department head of that caliber, that's kind of, or of that body of work, hopefully as more towns are having these roles.
I think so.
The pool will start to
I think
grow.
the pool will grow, you're right.
But I think Brian noted when we were talking about it, I think Berniston,
Livingston
Whately.
was exploring it. Whately has added somebody Northfield's in the end of the hiring phase, so I don't know what that looks like yet.
So we're
We'll-
seeing, to your question
And
about.
that's
it's-
similar communities.
I don't know if it's at the department head level, it might be at the assistant level, but either way, they're adding planning
Yeah, they're
to- as a
planning.
distinct
Yep.
thing that they didn't have in the staff before,
Right.
so. Just as a side to that. So, on to the latter
thank you
part
for
of
that.
your recommendation.
So I think we have a capable employee to fulfill this role. And I would recommend a promotion to that level.
That level was what?
So this position is in grade F on the compensation schedule. That's the department head level. And the current, let me pull up the
Current is
notes where
D4.
Current is D4
Yeah, right, D4 right
at
now.
2470.
Right.
Mariah, 2 years? You've been with us 2 years now, or 3?
3 on Friday.
3 on Friday. I thought it was, that's why I said, or 3. It felt like it was 3, yeah.
Friday, wow. Time flies.
Yes, it does.
I feel like we were walking by renovators, like a few days before, like maybe today. 3 years ago. She came to join us before, right?
That was the day I got dressed down in front of everybody.
Did you?
Yeah.
By Mariah?
No. She came to like see what we were working on because we were doing that walkthrough, and I got screamed at. And that was like my
This was when we were doing
Welcome to Erving.
River Warner Strachan, right? This was the start of
Yes,
River Warner
yes,
Strachan.
yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Gave us a second chance.
Thankfully.
So grade F starts 2944.
The reason I asked for number of years is we have typically leeway of 1 to 3. And given that it would be 3 years on Friday, I would recommend that, she's currently a step 4, but grade F step 3, and that's 3063.
It always makes it more awkward when the people are here, but that is life of public office. So
Yep.
I will just make the counterpoint that there's 0 department head experience.
Sure.
Whether or not the person has been working at a higher level than the position was. And we didn't necessarily use the same logic 20 minutes ago. So I don't, just putting it out there, I'm not saying that I disagree or agree, but as a reference. And I checked with Brian earlier, but just so you both are aware, and for reference, in the past, it's come up, our outdated and yet to be revised fully personnel policy does cite a minimum 10% for a promotion, which we have so far met. But just so you know, it does call it out. We did make sure that we were covering that already.
Yeah, and even,
Even one
F1
covers that. Yeah,
covers
no, not in
that,
this case,
yeah.
but just in general
Yep.
tonight.
I call on Bill. Thoughts?
I totally agree. And,
With?
He's looking for what grade, or what step here, I think.
That was grade F, step 3 at 3063. Is that correct?
That is what
That's what it
Scott
is.
proposed.
Yeah, and the reason I proposed that, and I understand what you're saying about not having the
yeah.
department head experience, but the work that goes in as the department head, being the liaison, the point person, the overseer, the supervisor of those interns, that work has already been happening. It hasn't been happening on paper. It hasn't been something that you could document and say that this role has had supervisory, because it didn't exist. We created I shouldn't say we, because I did not write it. This was created to honor the work that was currently happening. And so therefore, I think maybe year one that wasn't happening. So, you could push back a little bit and say maybe step 2. But given that, we typically will place somebody between 1 and 3, Friday being a third year here, I thought step 3 was appropriate to move in. But I mean, I'm amenable, but that was my logic behind it. I think the role of the supervisor, especially in the last year, has happened not out of requirement, but out of initiative.
So I make a motion to approve Mariah Kurtz as town planner at the pay rate of grade F, step 3, at the amount of $30.63 an hour, effective October 3rd, 2022.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for all your work.
Thank you all.
Thank you. So, based on your summary of that, I had been pondering this before, and so you made me want to reconsider our promotion recommendation for a senior custodian. If you would entertain and discuss, returning to that discussion.
Yeah, you can return to it.
Before we go there real quick, for the planning topic, now that we have an official department head for planning, recruiting a department of planning,
Excuse me?
is that okay?
I mean, you can't have one without the other.
I have org charts update, and I have to create a whole section of the budget.
I get a crown, right?
Yes,
We're fresh out of crowns.
Jake will lend you his statue.
Find something.
Yeah, you can borrow my statue.
But
Is there a grant
I just
for
want
that?
clarity on that. I'm creating a section of the budget. It's a whole different budget category, so I'm gonna peel all of that out of the select board, which
Yes.
is where it has lived, and it will have a new home.
Yeah, it doesn't raise and appropriate anything new. It just redefines it and puts
We're
it
gonna
in its
spend
own.
lines into the negative in the short term, and then I
yes.
will move money around later on in the year with you all.
Yeah,
Okay.
We talked about seeding a grant, like a grant seed fund, that would fall in that department, right? As well.
all of that.
Yeah.
Budget season, I'm gonna hand all of this over.
Yes,
Look at that new work you have.
jumped right into it in budget season. You have got your hands full for the next 6 months.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. I was pondering this before, and I probably should have spoke up then, and as you made that thoughtful argument about why and where to put the town planner role, I've been thinking on the same thread of the work, and we actually talked through all of it with the senior custodian. I've been doing that work and for a while. And so while we were at that, I had been thinking of step 4, and I didn't mention it at the time, so I guess I'm making a recommendation that we amend our motion to promote Rebecca Walsh to senior custodian at a grade C step 3 and change that to a grade C step 4.
I'll second that. Thanks, Glenn.
Any further discussion?
None.
None.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, back to planning and grants. A review of the FY22 emergency management planning grant proposal.
This is more on the fire side, and Chief couldn't be with us tonight.
This is every year in PG, right?
It is, but I think in this request, he's saying, are you okay if we forego as a town and instead partner up with some of our colleagues and go for a regional grant? So he just wants your guidance on that before he tells them that we can proceed.
Just to understand it better, are we applying and then allocating, or is as I read that, I think, the towns getting together that are supporting Greenfield and requesting that Greenfield gets all of these towns as a
That's the
regional?
plan.
Okay.
Yeah, because the line I read is that they will not and will not have to manage the grant paperwork.
I missed that wording.
If
Okay.
they support this proposal.
Right.
Correct.
If they support it as well, then we could step
Right.
back and do our part,
Sounds
but not
like
have
Greenfield
to
wants
Yeah,
to,
okay.
is
take the
willing
lead.
to take on the
They'll
lead.
take the lead,
Yep.
and we get to just be a
Passing,
part
yeah,
of it.
Yep, that's fine.
And that's not unlike some of the other firefighter assistance grants we've done in the last few years, where Greenfield has typically taken the lead, and we've just partnered.
Yeah, I'm fine.
I don't have a concern with that. If the chief
I
is
have no
comfortable
concern.
with partnering up, if Greenfield is, okay with signing on with it,
Yep.
I don't have a concern with that. We typically end up being the lead on a lot, so to have
So
somebody
someone
else be the
else can
lead
lead.
and do that and take the legwork out, it's welcomed.
I don't have any concerns with the allocation either. It makes sense. We've used it.
Yep,
And
we've
would like
used
to
that
use
same
it more,
methodology.
and they
Yep.
always, obviously bring it and provide that anytime they can, so.
So I'll let him know to proceed.
Yep.
Yes.
Review of surplus equipment requests, administration, highway and fire.
Okay. We're cleaning everything out.
On a side note, I still haven't had anybody reach out with the purchase and sale.
I will follow up on that, because I was about to ask you if you'd gotten that yet.
No, I thought about it with the, the surplus. Some of it came out of that building and it, yeah.
No, I will take care of that. So there's a few different request forms I filled out, one for each department. And even though I signed for the request form, I've checked with every department head when I did this. So the first one is we were cleaning out Town Hall and 18 Pleasant Street. There was just a lot of event chairs that are very heavy. They're all metal. They are usable, so they should absolutely be made available to the public. Highest bid, free. They're in good condition, but if not, they would become scrap metal for us. We have no use for them. I think we've had them since the 70s. There are plastic chairs that go along with those, so those are all itemized on there. We also have 2 folding tables. They're in okay condition, so those should be made available to the public. And there are 2 air conditioners that came out of 18 Pleasant Street. They're a higher capacity. They can take care of a room of about 450 square feet, both in working condition. So I think all of this equipment should be made available to the public. We can put it on our website, put it in the Round Town newsletter, and just give a bid deadline, and anybody who puts in a bid, highest bid gets it. We've done that with a few other things.
Piecemeal or?
I
for-
mean, there's so many chairs. I think there's 60 of one type of chair. Somebody
Okay.
may not want that many, so
Yeah.
I think we could be open to however people are interested in these
Yeah.
products, and we can put pictures online so people know what they're
Okay.
interested in.
I'm just wondering if you're gonna, there's some of the items like the tables, take them, first come, first serve.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
because they're,
yeah.
you look at the picture, you can
yeah.
tell, those, they're particle board tables, they warp,
not like these type.
the metal, separates on the bottom. If somebody wants those, they should have them. But all of the other items should probably, you could do a highest bid for, say, the air conditioners. They're one piece.
Yep.
You could do that. The chairs is a little bit different because you have so many.
Right.
Should probably just set a price and just advertise them as for sale for this price.
Yeah.
Only be,
A bucket chair.
yeah, a minimum bid of, $1. It's just something, because otherwise, it's either that or it's first
Well,
come,
it's a
first
bid.
serve.
It's not, you were going to do it a bid, or were you going to
Right, but if you have a bid that comes in and says, I want 22 chairs,
Yeah, no, I know.
I only want 10 chairs, I want all 60. The 60 is offering $1 a chair, the 22 is offering $5 a chair. Like, how do you, how do you manage that? There's just so many. I mean, or do you just say it's all or nothing? Take them all or take none? And
We
you
can
do
make it
that
available free, first come, first serve.
to the, local residents.
You're hurting my head at 9:57 with all that. That's all I'm
Just
saying.
your first read, you can deal with this
Yeah,
next
really,
week.
right?
Yeah, that's
but-
fine.
Oh, my goodness.
We're trying to make some room before
Yeah.
the fall for.
I just want to make it easy to manage. I don't want you having to open up.
Right.
We're not
80
going to make money off of any of this.
No,
So, yeah,
it's going to
just
be
get rid of it.
pennies. It's.
We're just trying to avoid having to throw it in the dumpster. So, any other questions on those ones?
No.
So the fire department request comes with the request from the highway department plus a request from the fire department to transfer equipment from the highway department. So the next two go together. You may recall that back in 2017, you moved a piece of equipment from the highway department, an old Ford F550, over to the the fire department. Now I'm getting confused, as a brush truck.
When did we do this?
It was either 2017 or 2018.
I
It was about
remember.
5 years ago.
Yes.
2018 when the 2019 came through.
Because we got rid of the old FEMA, the old federal government trucks from the fire department.
When we got squad.
Right.
Okay.
It was after the squad trucks. So the fire department is requesting that the Ford F-550 that we are about to replace, the new truck finally arrived last week. So we were going to come to you and ask to surplus it, the old one. They would like to have that one as the new brush truck. So the question is, can we transfer the Ford F-550 from Glenn's department to Chief Wonka's department as a brush truck? And then the request from the fire department, if you approve that, would be to surplus that old Ford F-550 that you assigned to them 5 years ago. And I would recommend we put that on municipal bid and just highest bidder.
For the
2010.
ending surplus 2010.
Now, there was a mention
What
in
about the
here,
body and stuff that we're not
transferring
using?
the bed?
They wanted, so the bed is like a,
2010 bed will be going on the 2013.
they already have a modified bed that they've created with their brush truck equipment attached to it, and it slides off, and they believe it will fit right on the frame. I think they've actually already done it.
The other,
Just to
the
test it.
2010, the body is separated from the truck, still sitting on it. The multi-use body that's now on the 2013 would have to come off, and they would have to install the new one.
And it will
They're the
transfer
same
without,
size.
Yes.
without
Same.
issue?
Yes.
So what happens, and that led to my question, which is what about the body from the 2013?
That's the
today?
next request.
Okay, okay.
And we're gonna
Got
ask to surplus that and put that on municipal bid.
And that goes to municipal bid separate from the 2010.
Yes.
Right.
Or together.
2010 with no bed or,
Or we just set it on the other one, we U-bolt it down, and then send it off, it's not working, and it's up to whoever. We're not putting money into it to make it
No.
work. just-
No,
We'll put on it, put some U-bolts on it, tamp it down, and it's up to whoever purchases.
I would do it.
You talking about putting it on the 2010 and surplus the whole thing as a package?
Price it as one.
Highest bidder?
I would do them separately and they can bid on both if they want it. Just because it's not gonna work.
It's a
So
difference of
they
5
take it
minutes.
separately, they're gonna,
Yeah,
I don't know. I think it's more
Easy.
valuable separately.
I think.
And if they want them
yeah.
together, they can buy them.
That's fine.
Do two separate
They
bids.
come to get all of it regardless. It has, we don't have to do anything, but.
If they want to
the
U-bolt
seating
it on and drive it away together, good for them.
Right, you might find one bidder that bids on both.
Yeah.
Right. Any questions or concerns on the first read?
No, this is just the
No.
first read.
Okay.
None.
Makes sense what we're doing now?
Any
Yes.
concerns with the whole chess game?
In theory, is it okay to tell the fire department that we're moving in the direction of transferring? Well, that's actually not surplus.
I was gonna say, that's not
Moving the
surplus.
truck
I
over
say
I was
to-
gonna say, that
Off-
decision's just ours. That's
Yeah.
We just move
now or
it.
whenever.
Yeah, we can do that whenever. We need a couple of reads to surplus it, but
Yeah.
transferring
move
to
it
through
over.
department doesn't matter.
No concerns about
I
that
have no
amount?
concern.
Nope.
No.
They get
Want a
3 extra
motion?
years out of it. Do you need a motion?
Yeah, just to let me know, because we'll move it on the fleet and everything else. It changes how we insure it.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we transfer the 2013 F-550 from the highway department over to the fire department,
Less
Fleet.
the,
less the flatbed,
less,
right?
yeah, whatever, I don't know what you're.
Body,
Sure,
less
less the bed.
flatbed.
Less the bed.
The bed, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Second.
Cabin
He's
chassis.
going back there going,
It's a cabin
you guys
chassis.
are funny. We transfer cabin chassis?
Yes.
There we go.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The rest of it is on the reads.
Yes.
Only reads, yeah.
Okay. Review and issuance fifth water commitment FY23. I'll make a motion. We issue the fifth water commitment in the amount of $41,659.66 for water use charges for fiscal 23.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Discussion regarding townwide Microsoft licensing change. I will recuse myself.
IT, man, so.
I will recuse myself as the select board chair and answer any questions since it is an IT proposal that I am submitting.
Give us a rundown on it like we do with everybody else.
Okay. Our current Microsoft licensing, we do two levels, one for elected boards, committees, groups like that. That's a lower cost license with just email primarily. And then we do a full featured license called an E3, gives them Outlook, SharePoint, all the things that we do day to day in the administration, offices, employees, et cetera. There is a higher level offering called E5, which adds some additional compliance, security, and threat protection features that we don't today have. In working with Motorola WatchGuard, with the WatchGuard upgrade that's coming later this year, looks to be that we would need to upgrade to the E5 at least for the staff using the WatchGuard system so we can integrate it, which is just easier to manage, better security, et cetera. We also, in doing a cyber threat assessment, cyber audit with Maya, our insurer, had a variety of different things that they asked if we had already. Some of those were advanced threat protection suite of tools and features that are offered in the Microsoft E5 license, which we don't have today. So rather than maybe piecemeal trying to purchase just a few licenses for one use or another, my recommendation is that we consider a budget increase and changing everyone that uses an E3 today to an E5, which is approximately it's a $5,000 annual, $6,000 annual, $6,000 annual.
About 50 licenses?
We have about 45, but it fluctuates depending on,
Okay.
department heads or I should say, chairs of boards and committees. Sometimes they have a full license to
Yep.
integrate and do stuff. So it goes up and down depending on staffing, but around
Got it.
45 to 50. It'll give us bandwidth to add a few. And in terms of compliance and records retention, it gives us better automated tools to comply with public records requirements and both storage, retention, as well as discovery. So, and we have been using those tools and having them be easier, better, and more reliable, I think is a worthwhile cost.
And are you suggesting this go into effect for the next budget cycle?
So my recommendation would be to do the upgrade immediately. It's an annual, we buy annual licenses, so we'd be approximately $5,500 immediate cost change. Because it's just going to be the delta. We'll get credit for the licenses we already purchased towards the upgrade. And in terms of budget, although we probably have capacity, we think, in the IT budget today, we have capacity in the WatchGuard budget because we knew we may need software changes. We weren't necessarily scoping it for the whole thing, but it's another source that I think, I defer to Brian, but I think it's a reasonable application of it for year one.
Or combination
And then we
of
would
both.
budget, or combination, and then we would budget it for the following fiscal year.
Correct. And to Jake's earlier points about the cybersecurity, that was a small assessment that we did in the first year as this was gaining importance in the insurance world and with municipalities being targeted. It is now becoming, I think we spent 4 days working on the review and trying to answer their questions. We haven't even gotten our full assessment back as to where we stand, but we already through that internal assessment know where our deficiencies are. And this is going to set the stage for us not only to address those issues, but as we bring on things like WatchGuard and new procurement software, new budgeting software, and all these other platforms, this is setting the foundation. We don't want to build these services off of a foundation that wasn't designed for that. So I really do think that not only doing this for the police department, because that's the first immediate need, but doing this for all of the employees is going to set us up for a much better secure networking environment.
And I'll just add one that I'm not sure I defined in there, but from a management standpoint, internally, for IT specifically, managing licensing where we're not licensing everyone in town for certain things, Adobe Acrobat, LastPass, all these different tools that we are adding, those that integrate, and that's really what we're requiring to integrate with Microsoft Azure Active Directory. This allows us to actually do group management. We can say the LastPass users group, and I can just put people in it, and they'll automatically get that software license or that access. Today, it's individual. Every assignment is individual.
And then
That's
you
what our
miss
license
something,
allows, and so take them out, put them in. It's
So time
it's
on
got
task
some
is-
overhead,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and error prone, right? The opportunity for mistakes is much higher. So
Right.
this just gives us a little more robust tools, and as we add more software
Yeah.
and more things that are licensed for groups of people, it's easier to manage. WatchGuard, it's the PD just assign those people when someone joins who's in that department, you put them in the group, and then everything's just done, right? You don't have to, so it's ease of management for the IT side of managing users' access too, so.
I have no concern.
And at this time, I wasn't recommending any change to the email-only licenses that we use for boards. and
Yeah, I
committee
saw that
members
in the
today.
last paragraph there. I don't have any concerns with it. No, I'm good.
Any other questions?
So I can work with Jake and Jackie, we'll work with the existing budgets in the IT department and the WatchGuard project. We'll execute it, and then as we build the '24 budget, we'll work this into the operating budget proposal. Okay,
Yeah?
excellent.
Thank you, gentlemen. I will rejoin at 10:09. And we got one and done. Discussion regarding Erving Hometown Heroes Banners Program.
I have examples right next to you. Want me to hold it up?
Double-sided, yeah.
I'm sorry?
Want me to hold it?
I can. We'll
You're
just,
supposed to be looking at it, I've already seen it. I got it. There's two.
I know there's two.
Oh, is that one?
Yeah.
They're right here.
Oh,
I have the first 24 that we've ordered.
first 24.
Yeah, there's 24 of these.
Are they all the same? So how many?
This is the same layout for every
Yeah.
one of them.
Yeah.
But we have a different Erving veteran feature than every.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
we've done the first 24 that came in.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
Are we
Yeah.
able to capture those for the viewers?
Excellent.
So these will, I'm not mic'd, but, oh yeah, we're not.
No,
these will be going,
yeah. Throughout the town,
Yeah.
in various
In the-
locations.
Yep.
Yep,
Excellent.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice.
So thank you to everybody who participated. And,
I was going to say, there was a large,
No, that's on-
yeah, no, there was a large group of people that gave input on design and redesign, and redesign again.
If anybody wants to see the rest of them, they're all in the box over there.
Yeah.
Excited to see them up.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so exciting bit of ending
Yeah,
stuff there. We'll see you around town soon and have them for future years and continue to expand as we have interested
The only decision that hasn't been made yet that I will need the three of you to weigh in.
veterans.
There we go. I'll need you to weigh in at some point. Are these staying up year round or are they coming down seasonally? The setup allows us to do either. It may buy us a few more years with each of these, but it may be something you want them up year round. Some towns leave them up, some take them down. So
okay.
we'll get them up.
Get some information from the vendor on how much that changes lifespan, just for
Right.
reference.
Okay.
We have an opinion in the back.
We do, sir.
Are these only able to go on the decorative lamps in Erving Center? Are they able to go on telephone poles?
We have the same problem with the flags as this. So we're going to do decorative poles in Irving Center, the lighting poles in this location next door in the school. Eversource sounds like they're open to using telephone poles, and Mariah already sort of sketched out where they could go, looking at the proximity to the road. And we submitted the request months ago, but we didn't hear back.
Yeah, I can follow up on that. It was right around the same time that we were having issues up on Poplar Mountain Road. And I think our Eversource contacts were kind of swamped with that. And so I don't know if it fell through the cracks or if they're not interested, but we can follow up.
And secondly, I'll offer my help to putting them up. I'd love to see them up before Veterans Day in November.
Yeah,
I think we're hoping to have them up this month, ideally,
I'm
in the
saying.
next couple of weeks. Get them
I'll
up.
offer my help to come and do it, even if it's after hours or weekends.
Yeah.
Let me know where to put them up.
We've got all the equipment, we're ready to go. Mariah's got a plan that looked okay on paper, and then we get out in the field and realize it had to tweak, so we have to go back over it one more time.
Your expertise might help with that.
There was trees in the way, there was signs in the way.
We have a guy for that.
I was going to say,
No, I'm excited too, and I think, to your question, they'll go up where they can go up for now. I still don't like the response we get from the utility companies on this side especially, or on the other side especially, so.
yeah.
But they'll be up no matter what. Can they go on
Somewhere.
poles? Absolutely, if we can get the utilities to stop being up.
Let's also acknowledge that we have many
Barrier.
more than 24 veterans. So
Yeah,
the reality
Absolutely.
is,
This is a start, but it's not.
I'm hoping that I already have a few additional applications that came in after this order was sent in. So I've already started to assemble the next order, and I'm assuming as soon as these go up, we'll have more interest from the public, and we will be glad to process those requests as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, this will get people to actually, who didn't see the banners even being produced or
I
talked
wasn't
about.
sure what they would look like
Yeah.
and didn't know if they'd be comfortable with it.
Yeah.
There's a whole host of reasons. So we're hoping that this generates a little more interest.
Very exciting. Last is upcoming meetings. We shifted schedule a week. And I was proposing we continue 2 weeks from tonight. Just at the shifted schedule, it avoids some upcoming holidays and things, maybe a little easier, indefinitely. I understand that one of those is Halloween night, so if we want to make an adjustment there, that's fine. But any concerns right now with continuing 2 weeks from tonight?
No, I look forward to seeing Brian's
Yeah,
costume.
it's fine.
Excellent. Who's going to carry the festivities for us?
Great. It's going to be great.
And BNC TV will provide the appropriate music.
Excellent.
For the spooky
Not to ask
evening.
for that, but
No,
we're way ahead of you.
We're way ahead of you.
With that, anything else? Thank you all for hanging in there for the long night. Motion to adjourn 10:15 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good evening, everybody. Or night.
Yeah, have a good night.
Comes extra duty.